is our Rwandan hero. And as you can see, the party is still in full swing. Our drummers are back. They've missed, unfortunately, sending off Shema up the road, but they are here and ready to beat out a rhythm for this man. Well, it's all quiet. Got to hear the beeps. Well, we heard one of them. That was good. The drummers are here, and Ngwata has departed. They're all where they need to be. Unfortunately, they missed their friend, Shemu. He didn't... Well, I mean, his benefit is that his eardrums are still absolutely where they need to be. But Ngwata now needs to dig in deep. And we've noted as well that some of the riders here will be aboard road steeds, others on certainly more focused time trial machines, but take nothing away from the effort and indeed the input that they will be putting into this ride. This is big news for every single one of these early runners.
It really is, and it's really worth talking a little bit about the tech that we're going to see on show, and it's always exciting for tech geeks like myself. I don't know about you, Carlton, but I do love a TT day and exploring the options that riders have available to them, and we are going to see a contrast in times to date, but we're going to see a big contrast in the technology available to these riders and the setup in terms of whether people are in a full TT position with a very customized bike for the merits of using it today, and people that are going to be on a more standard road bike setup because they simply don't have that structure around them to provide enough funding to really drill them in with a TT position. As you say, there's riders in this field, and indeed in the women's earlier today, that are for the first time getting exposed to a world championships at this level of UCI racing, and it's so important for the development of riders in this part of the world. And Team Africa Rising has sort of formed from what was originally a Rwandan-based cycling team initiative, and then it expanded across different parts of Africa to really develop under 23 and junior riders to get to the top level of cycling. And they can't get there if we don't go through steps of riders getting exposed to this level, getting the experience, maybe having to field a race with a standard road bike setup. And we're seeing the sport evolve in Africa and get better and better with riders able to come into being fed to the higher echelons of the peloton.
Jalal Edouard is next for South Sudan. You know, the panoply of nations that we've got here is absolutely outstanding. It's so wonderful as well that we have come to Africa for the first time, the biggest continent on the planet, and just so very special for us to be here. And indeed, able to welcome so many different nations as well that haven't had perhaps the expense of leaving the great continent and have allowed themselves the honour of actually coming and competing. So we're going to see a whole panoply of different levels potentially of performance, but don't read too much into that, at least in the early phase, because it's an absolute honour to witness them racing, and it will be big news for everybody back home. Of course, this man from Tanzania hasn't come as far as some others, and of course Shemo Nissan Yumbi, who went off earlier on, our national champion of Rwanda, given the honour of opening the race for us today. And here he is, just 35.4 kilometres to go. It's a long day.
The singer Yimba here. Yeah. Sorry, Carlton. Sorry. Yeah, he's been the first off on the start ramp, and it's an interesting one because I can only imagine the sense of occasion, the pressure on your shoulders, the balance, I guess the fine balance of knowing that this is so special, you want to absorb it in this part of the world, being a Rwandan cyclist, being first off, but equally we know how brutal for the women's race, we've seen it, we know how brutal this course is and how much focus it takes, and so yeah, it's not one that this rider will be able to absorb fully at the moment, but reflecting on how amazing today has been is going to be something for later. But yeah, we had a lot of questions answered because we'd seen riders out there covering recons of the course on social media, but I think it was only when we saw the women at race pace that we realised that there were more elements perhaps to contend with than we had considered on paper.
Well, this is Ibrahim Jallo of Sierra Leone. I've got to say, I really like this kit. It's kind of colour block in the old look kind of way. I absolutely love it. The UCI, of course, it's about all bike disciplines. It's not just about time trialling and road racing, although that is our focus. Even virtually, it is, of course, an homage as well as our great overriding institution that looks after, it's the crucible really, if you like, of all forms of bike racing. So whatever it is you like to do on two wheels, or occasionally three, you found your home right here with the UCI. UCI, all bikes, all competition, for everybody. How lovely is that?
I know you did as well, of course, Carlton, but I had the pleasure of being involved in the Super Worlds when it came to Glasgow in Scotland. And I think that montages like that give me such goosebumps now, because I was at the heart of every discipline that week. And I think it just hit me how vast this sport is and what we have going on in it, and how it transcends cycling, inspires more and more people to get active, and it's a really special thing. We're in a good place in the sport.
And we're in a good place here, the Volcanoes National Park. It's absolutely beautiful. Best known for its endangered mountain gorillas. Yes. An unparalleled opportunity you will get to go and witness those beautiful, powerful yet gentle creatures. And in fact, if you pay to have yourself a guide, you will get closer than perhaps you could even begin to imagine was possible to those amazing creatures. Time then to get ourselves into the zone, and this man, Diarra, is of course representing Mali. I've got to say, when you come to a Worlds, the choice of kit, when you get national jerseys and national representation up for grabs, stripped out of sponsorship, there's a purity about it, and there's some amazing designs. And every single one that comes to the podium here, I'm thinking, I wonder if they do treble XL.
Well, I have been looking at a lot of the potential technology that we're going to see displayed today, and I think it's a really good talking point actually, is when we see riders obviously go from their trade team kit into what we'll see them representing today in terms of their national kit. And each rider has different kit, of course, available to them depending on what national team they're riding for. And some riders will have been putting in endless hours of development in aero testing, in knowing exactly how their kit's going to perform. And as we discussed with the bike setup, some of our earlier starters today, there might be a big discrepancy in the kit that's been available to them, even if they have a skin suit or not. So I think as we get further and further on in today's proceedings, it's going to become more of a talking point as to who's developed their own kit for today, which riders have been allowed by their federation to say this is exactly what I want. And of course a large part of that is down to funding as well, which we'll see big discrepancies in again today. But the important point being, as you made earlier, Carlton, is the representation we're seeing today is really, really significant.
Well, we've got quite a playground for you today. World Championships individual time trials, occasionally they're quite simple courses. I think the simplest we ever had was actually in Qatar. you know, take a pancake, iron it, play billiards on it. That was the kind of surface we were dealing with. This is anything but. It's not unheard of to have climbs, but when you have this level of altitude gain within such a short distance, it is something quite exceptional. We are indeed playing with about 500 meters of altitude gain in this men's individual time trial, and some of the peaks are really, really sterling, to say the very least. We're playing with those peaks, and of course wherever there are peaks there are troughs as well. So there are fast sections, there are climbs. It's very difficult to set a rhythm for those, say for the drummers of course, who are doing a brilliant job, for those within the run. It's not necessarily for the pure time trialists, which has meant that there are some who've decided that this is not going to be their game to play. There's no Philip Ogana here, for example. Primož Roglič has decided not to come along. I think to their detriment, to be honest, because bizarrely, I think it might have suited them.
I feel like, I mean, it's very easy to say, isn't it? Oh, it's unpredictable. We say that a lot in cycling, but truly today has been so hard to predict and hard to navigate for the riders in terms of pacing it. And not only because of the course, but we are operating at an altitude of 1,500 metres, and a lot of the riders reported back, including the likes of Domi Vollering, that the air quality was affecting whether or not riders were able to go into the red and recover from that. So we've had reports that, you know, there's so many elements that riders are acclimatising to today. And I think because of that, no one really could call it coming into today as to who it was ultimately going to play in the favour of. But yeah, I think when we look at the likes of Philippe Ogana, you expect him to field a time trial. People want him to, of course. So there are some big names missing from the list today. But that said, we have some pretty handy names that are going to be going off later today. But it is going to be fascinating because you have your out-and-out favourites, but anything can happen on this course. I think we've played down the elevation.
I've been here. The people are beautiful. The weather's amazing, and I think it's so special for them to have this race, and we can really feel that. So absolutely stoked to be here. Yeah, it's tough. There's not a lot of recovery, and there's a hell of a lot of climbing. I think if you think back to the tour when we had the uphill TT or the mountain TT, this course has got the same amount of climbing as that. So it's absolutely brutal. The downhills are rapid, the roads are as good a roads as you've ever ridden on. So it's going to be an absolutely flying rapid course and a very hard one. Look, I think it's about doing the best power I can, the best average speed, and seeing where that lands. I think I know what I'd be happy with in terms of power and speed at the finish line, and if I can get close to what I want, then you can't do much more than that, can you? So, but hopefully, I think if I can do what I'm aiming for, it should be competitive.
Fantastic. It's good that Luke Plapp's gone for an aero haircut as well, I noticed. Something I've been sporting for quite some time. But anyway, we just saw Ahmed Bedreddin Wais, who is part of the refugee Olympic team, originally from Syria. And wonderful to see that there is that representation as well. It's about spreading the love of cycling. And of course, the UCI have indeed brought cycling to Africa. Not that it wasn't here already. The Tour of Rwanda, very well established as on the UCI calendar, but for the World Championships to come here, as you can see from the fans, this has gone down so well with absolutely everybody. The nation are agog, and look at the way, we mentioned it during the women's race as well, the faces follow the riders. I absolutely love that. This is a treat for absolutely everybody, including ourselves. And this is Ibrahim Majolo just about to catch here Jalal Edouard, who looks to be labouring just a little bit, the rider from South Sudan, on the climb here. You can see that even at the moment we're looking at right now, you can see the differences in the kit and indeed what is available to the athletes in terms of funding. But this is something that the World Championships help to even out over time, just bringing the news of cycling really to everybody.
Completely, and you've got to start somewhere with that development process, and that's why we keep nodding to the fact that this is really, really important. And as you say, it's not just different styles on the bike, it's different setups, it's different kit availability. It's just night and day for some of these riders, but gaining this experience coming onto this world stage is what we're ultimately talking about. And we mentioned that we're missing the likes of Ghana, but within this field there's so many talking points, so many stories. And you were talking there about the Olympic refugee team, and we have got all these stories that we're now talking about in our sport that we otherwise wouldn't be, and we're shining a spotlight on that.
We are, and indeed it doesn't need a spotlight to be shone on this amazing country. Just make sure you try it out. It's absolutely wonderful. Time then for the departures to continue, and they're coming off thick and fast right now. 14:02 local time. This is Mohamed Fia Handsoa of Malaysia, and indeed we have Guinea-Bissau, who will be represented in Madagascar, I beg your pardon. We have Guinea-Bissau coming off shortly, and then the Comoros Islands. Do you know, all it does is prove to me what a global phenomena cycling is. It's a way of binding people together. It's also the most spectacular canvas upon which to paint the best of a nation, and that's what we are seeing here in Rwanda. It is a beautiful place and an impeccably well organised, indeed, World Championships. Yes, it's a nation that historically has had its troubles, but then again, you could say that about any country. There was, of course, the genocide in 1994. Since then, money globally has poured into this part of the world. And as you can see, the infrastructure is impeccable. The roads are brilliant that we are playing with, and the welcome of the people here has just been exceptional. It feels like Africa is kind of putting an arm around cycling rather than the other way around. And for that, we are grateful. This has been wonderful so far. Great experience. And the racing is going to get absolutely white hot. Rebecca's already mentioned the names that are indeed about to grace us. Florian Vermeersch will be the first sort of major name, I am sure, that some of you know about. The Belgian will be off the ramp in about 20 minutes' time. And then at the end of a long, hard run, you get to have yourself a nice cup of tea. And these are the tea growing areas of Rwanda, introduced in at the turn of the last century. I believe it was by the Germans, quite frankly, who somehow managed to find some tea plants in India, and then decided to export those and set up their own growing sections here. Tea cultivation full and proper, once the plants had been truly developed, didn't happen until just after the Second World War, 1952 in fact. And now it's one of the major tea producers in the world. So obviously there's China, there's India, Ceylon, some would wager. Tea in all kinds of parts of the world, but in Rwanda you get a very, very nice hearty brew, and it's a heady brew that we've got right now. The atmosphere inside the BK Stadium just heralding yet another departure. It's been a party all day, this.
It's been such a huge party, and as I mentioned earlier, I love the way that the start ramp is structured in the middle of that indoor arena, because it's just allowing that sense of occasion to be amplified here in Rwanda. And you mentioned the Tour of Rwanda and how important that has been, and we're also aware of that. And I think if you look at the crowds that line the roads for that race every year, and then you look at today, it's amplified even more. And it's evident that these crowds are so invested in watching the racing, and we've seen that all day so far. And I'm really enjoying that element and the celebration that is going on today in Rwanda for these championships.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a really binding event, this, and the build-up has been tremendous. I mean, even years ago when it was first announced that we would be bringing this to Rwanda, the government and indeed the people of this great nation have been coalescing really and just making sure that they are ready to welcome it. And even various border conflicts that have been bedeviling this part of the world have quietened and indeed been resolved, apparently. And I like to feel that just as the Olympics as well itself likes to regard itself as a peacemaking opportunity, that cycling and the UCI World Championships have delivered something similar here in this amazing country, where the main characteristic is the sheer friendliness of the locals, and you can see it. The beaming faces is just brilliant. So we're here to enjoy ourselves and trust you are as well. Let's hear from Paul Seixas, shall we? Who, of course, will be going off a little bit later. He's one of our favoured riders today, very accomplished in his own right, and I am certain that he's going to deliver something special. He could easily get a top 5, Paul Seixas. Expectation.
C'est sûr que c'est particulier au niveau culturel, c'est bien différent de chez nous. Mais après, franchement, moi, je me suis préparé pour ça, donc ça me dérange pas tellement. Le climat est finalement peut-être un peu moins différent de ce que je pensais. Donc franchement, je me suis assez vite adapté. On verra, mais ouais, voilà, c'est une course au final.
Climate may be a little different to what he was expecting, but he says he's adapted very quickly and he's very much looking forward to the run. Adapting to the climate may well indeed hamper a few, although the temperature of the day just ebbing ever so slightly. We've been averaging around about 27. Now, there are storm clouds gathering, but they are away from indeed the course for the time being. I'm just hoping it stays dry for everybody. We've had almost a pre-storm, it kind of feels like pre-monsoony, really. It's a dry season, this, so rain not particularly expected. You might see some of the fronds of the palms here as you look past the crowd here at the cumulonimbus that are starting to gather. We may have some rain later, but I think the course itself is going to avoid that. The only problem is that as you get cumulonimbus forming over some of the hills, you get a draft being drawn in, and that can indeed just add a little bit of wind to a factor later on. So it might be, if that wind does pick up later, that it hampers some of the late riders. Let's see. Maybe that will just be an equalisation, really, because the highest quality will, of course, be coming off towards the end. Let's see.
Well, let's see indeed. Shemu Nsengimba is the rider that we have eyes on at the moment for Rwanda, of course, and he was the first to set off on that start ramp in that beautiful start arena with all that crowd support, which indeed continues for him for every kilometre of the action, with all the fans lining the roads here. We talked about how special this is, but yeah, I just can't say enough what this moment will mean to this rider as an individual, for everybody on looking on this day and this historical day for the UCI World Championships. And yeah, a solid performance so far, and we're very likely going to see him take to that hot seat at the conclusion of his ride today.
Well, earlier on we had Zavarine Niere, and she was in the hot seat for quite some time. She really set a belting pace out there, and I am sure that Nsengimba will do pretty much the same. Meanwhile, next off is Ricardo Sojede from Benin. Benin also famous for drummers, actually. I'm waiting to see a Tongan or a Samoan. Have you ever heard Samoan drums?
I'm not sure.
That's something, I tell you. Hollowed out trees, and they make one heck of a noise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably not then.
Well, I spent a lot of time in the South Pacific, as you found out yesterday.
I did.
Yeah. I haven't seen a Tuvaluan representative yet, but it'll happen. I was once responsible for forming the Tuvaluan beach volleyball team. Yeah, tried to get them in the Commonwealth Games.
Wow.
You know, my sporting credentials are planetary. Anyway, not interplanetary, not yet. We'll see. First football match on Mars, that's what I'm after. Anyway, we are indeed digging deep right now, as you can possibly tell. But our rolling terrain is now being revealed to us. Now, this is a long run. I'm expecting that we may well start to nudge the hour mark by the time we get to the end. That is a hell of a long time to stay in position on a time trial bike and to have the imposition of climbs, cobbles, inclines. Quite frankly, the crowd is absolutely wonderful, but you're going to go into a very, very dark tunnel indeed in terms of pain and effort that you've got to put into this.
Yeah, it's really, really tough today, and it was interesting to get the insights from Luke Plapp earlier on, wasn't it? It's his interview that we had the pleasure of seeing, and yeah, just giving his honest appraisal and summary of what he thinks lies ahead today. Of course, a lot of these riders will have done extensive recons when they arrived, and we now know how many resources teams and riders have even before setting sights on a course. We have the likes of VeloViewer, where we can really hone in on what's going to lie ahead for the riders. But yeah, he, I think, said pretty much it's going to be brutal. 40.6 kilometres, 681 metres of elevation gain. So a lot is being thrown into this World's course this year.
Well, it's designed to be tough. Now, China in the women's race also produced some great performances, and I'm expecting pretty much the same because, quite frankly, when China get invested in a sport, they don't really let it go until they have target achievements. And I'm sure that Zhankun Yu will be one of those. He is bound to go strongly. I'm just looking down the roster. I think China have actually come with just one representative. Yes, indeed. So it's all upon his... Sure, beg your pardon. We have Hayoyu Sao going off a little bit later on. This is the Akagera National Park, where you get the Big Five. Do you know what the Big Five are? It's not 5-star. That was a long time ago. And since their last hit, it's been a while. But here, yeah, the Big Five are rhinos, lions, elephants, running out now, giraffes, there we are, and buffalo. I remembered them all. That's an achievement in itself. I always wonder about buffalo.
I never doubted you.
Are they one of the Big Five? They are here, apparently.
I'll let you answer that.
I'd have gone crocodiles. Something like that. But anyway, you know, I mean, buffalo, yes. Crocodile, ooh, you know. Anyway, back to it. 19.5 kilometres before he gets home. That's got to hurt. I mean, you've already emptied yourself on the race. You are, getting on for half an hour into your run. You've still got 19 kilometres with the worst part at the end in terms of effort that you're going to have to put in. That's cruel.
It's really interesting to look at the pacing of riders today, and something else to observe as we go on through our start list today is how much riders are able to keep time trial position as well, keep in the skis and keep aero, because again there's a big variation in who's able to have the time to prepare sitting in that ultimate position for this duration with this elevation. And of course, as we get towards the latter starters, we'll see more and more riders able to hold position a little bit longer. But it is really interesting to look at the Côte de Nyanza and the elevation of that, because although we're looking at averages of around 6% on some of these climbs, they do top out at 11%. So as Luke Plapp was saying, yeah, there's a significant amount of inclines today.
Here is Ahmed Weiss for the refugee Olympic team. Went very strongly in the Asian Games, finished in 9th place in the road race, and has indeed competed in so many events on behalf of refugees and the Refugee Council. And all credit to him, proving that through sport, you can overcome all kinds of things that life throws at you. And, you know, so wonderful that he is here.
It's really wonderful. He began cycling at 14 years old. And I'm just looking down the list of his Palmares, and yeah, he represented the Olympic refugee team at the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, of course, and he's competed in 6 editions of the UCI Road World Championships. And yeah, he started at a young age, but of course had a very troubled, difficult journey. So the fact that he is here racing today is important, and it is the stories that come out of our beautiful sport that we need to keep shouting about.
We certainly do. And Segiyuma is here on course, and with 2.5-minute margins, he should stay clear. Edward Jalal of South Sudan will probably have something to say about that, but let's wait and see. We've seen Hassan Sharif of Tanzania completing the Tanzanian, indeed, input at the beginning, as Ngwata is already on course. Next up, Laurent Gervais of Canada will be off the ramp. In fact, I think he may well have just departed. DieudonneMusharibanza is also going to take to the podium. I think it is our Canadian friend, actually, that's just about to get off and underway. Backpedaling, that's a way of keeping your legs moving without moving. Laurent Gervais representing Canada, another phenomenal nation, I should say, and they've got phenomenal nature, of course. Canada is also a nation that punches above its weight, particularly in track cycling, and indeed brings it to the road occasionally as well. Remember the great win of rider Ejidal in the Giro d'Italia, which warmed the cockles of my heart, I must admit. Lovely guy, and never met a Canadian I don't like. I mean, there's probably a few I wouldn't like, but I haven't met them yet.
You've yet to meet them.
Yes. Meanwhile, ISIGANWA is still out there and doing a job of opening the course for us. He's going to set our benchmark for us here.
Yeah, Shaimu Nsengiyumba is out front. He will presumably take to the hot seat. As the first rider off on the ramp this morning, this afternoon? We're in the afternoon, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let me just check my time of day. Yeah, so of course he was the starter for our elite men's time trial. And yeah, the timing 0.1, so the first split, the gap was 1:45. So he's going to look to ride into that hot seat. And yeah, it will be a really big moment for this rider. And he's still at the head of that course.
Well, I'm just passing by the Kigali Genocide Memorial, which, of course, is a solid reminder of just what a dark place humanity can go to. But this nation has turned itself around absolutely amazingly and is now a very hospitable and beautiful place to come. As I said, all nations have had their dark moments. It's how you move away from them that indeed is the mark of a great country, and that is what we have here. A fabulous place that we are absolutely loving, enjoying, while of course acknowledging those who have passed. Well, as the eternal flame burns for those who have passed, right now it's the moment of truth for some of these riders. Slightly upright positioned for to be on a time trialing bike, but maybe like a spinnaker, he's going to indeed catch the wind and head through. The breeze is just starting to pick up ever so slightly, and it might well be slightly impactful as we get deeper into the day, but for now, those who are opening the course have got a free run, a free hand. I'm hoping that our benchmark times, the timing 0.1, has indeed been breached by this man, and he's quickest so far. And I've got to tell you, of the 7 riders who come through, by a handsome margin, a minute and 45 quicker than the nearest rider to him. So ISIGANWA, they've put some very, very good riders, Rwanda, out first just to give us a proper benchmark and get a look at them on the hot seat, I reckon. He's going well.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen this, haven't we, early on in the women's elite race and indeed the men's, with Nsengiyumba just putting in a really solid ride here. And so he's obviously just gone past the second checkpoint, so the only rider to have gone through the first 2. But as you say, the time gap's significant, as we saw him at timing 0.1. So we're seeing riders scale the Côte de Nyanza today, then descend do a dead turn and come back up again on the other side with, of course, a different gradient and a different approach to that summit. So there is a lot of climbing to contend with today, and it's perhaps had even more of an impact than we first thought. And there's a lot of riders looking at that 681 metres of climbing and of course having to consider exactly how they pace that coming into those time splits. And I think the narrative enhances throughout the day, of course, with more and more riders setting off on that start ramp, as to how individual riders are planning their race, because we can't always tell, of course, can we, in the early checkpoints, whether somebody is going to have a part of the course that favours them more to pull it back, for example. And in the latter part of this course today, for this TT, and we'll get to see it in all its glory very shortly, the Côte de Kimihurura contains a lot of cobbles and quite a long drag.
Oh yes, and including a ramp of 11% that you have to negotiate for a couple of hundred metres. Unfortunately, we have a non-starter here in Koroma. As declared a non-starter, one can only guess what the issues are, but there's a bit of sadness about that. I always think if indeed you don't get to actually start for something that you must have been building up for an awful long time, there has to be a very good reason.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? And with a time trial, we sadly have seen that, where people are in big anticipation of starting and something happens, and once that slot's gone, it's gone. And yeah, that's mighty disappointing, especially at the UCI World Championship level. So yeah, very sorry to see him not start today. I think, yeah, there's so many elements to consider, going back to my point on what we see in the latter part of today's time trial course. Of course, 40.6 kilometres. And as we approach the end of that, we have the section of cobbles, and then once they're off that surface, there's more climbing towards the end of course. And I wonder how much elements like tyre pressure have come into the conversations, because although it's late in the day, you do not want to fall at that hurdle by having any sort of technical difficulties on that run-in.
So our friend from Sierra Leone, it could be something just as simple as having missed your slot, and you're not allowed to indeed go beyond that. I believe he is the only rider from Sierra Leone as well, so it can actually just be nothing more than just having not had your eyes on the clock, as simple as that. It's brutal in that regard, isn't it? You're not allowed to enter the course if you're not on time.
Yeah, there's so many elements like that, isn't there, across our sport, and all the rules in terms of track cycling. We see it a lot in terms of whether you're allowed a restart or not, and there's perhaps more nuance to that. But I find that when new fans of the sport start exploring all these rules and things, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean they can't just start a little bit later, or they don't get an opportunity if they've had a problem? But it's not always the case, of course.
Indeed. Well, this man is here. Ghana's Victor Akpabli is Victor Akpabli is off the ramp. Next up, it'll be Florian Vermeersch of Belgium. And dare I say, that may well indeed be our early benchmark. However, having said that, Rwanda and their own riders have been brilliant. And when they give us their national champions, we have been sitting up and appreciating what they are delivering. The man from Madagascar here, Mohamed Fatih Hian Soa, is off and underway. I tell you what, I like this bike. It's not the most dialed-in time trial machine. We've talked about the different kits, but it's kind of quite sinuous and lovely, old school, like me.
And I think that's what we're seeing a display of here with this rider, is just look at the focus, the dedication, everything that he's putting into this ride, despite being on that start ramp, knowing that you're going to have the likes of Remco and Tadej later, who have got absolutely everything on their side, everything dialed in. But this rider is just putting everything in to getting the most he can out of himself, out of his equipment. And we're seeing a lot of that on display today.
I must admit, my my heart goes out to him. Different funding levels, of course, for different federations. Of all the sports, however, I've got to say that cycling is, in terms of its equipment, it's quite open, I must admit, to all. The variation between, let's just take motorsport for a moment, shall we? A regular car and indeed a Formula One car is an eternal difference between them. From the very best, from the very best of the shop-bought bikes to the pro bikes, there isn't that kind of void. So if nations get behind cycling, they can make huge vaults in terms of their delivery of success. You just look at a South American nation of Colombia, for goodness sake. The amount of stars that have come out of there. We have Eritrea and Ethiopia, of course, that are starting within Africa likewise. So it's a sport where it's easy to make big gains for not an inordinate amount of investment, and we love that. Off the ramp, it's Florian Vermeersch, and so it is somebody that perhaps we're a little more familiar with, at least out of these early riders, and somebody who can go very well, taking advantage of the quota, fielding 3 riders actually, courtesy of having won it. You're allowed to have the champion plus 2. So Florian Vermeersch is here. How will he go?
Well, I would say that we're expecting a solid ride, and it's something that you've nodded to. Of course, we would expect as we go up this start list, as we get closer and closer to the conclusion of today, we're going to see more and more exciting rides come out of the bag. But something I wanted to go back to is ISIGANWA here and the display that we've seen in terms of the start order, and that they have really put on show their best talent from Rwanda here today. And we've had a real good opportunity to have eyes on the first 2 riders in the women's and the men's to start, to go, have the availability to go into that hot seat. But they've put in really, really good rides today, those 2 riders from Rwanda.
The Volcanoes National Park, and there was a gorilla. That gorilla looked like it got a microphone. Maybe it's just the way I'm looking at the statue, but beautiful. The natural parks here there's so many natural, indeed, attractions, I've got to say, here in Rwanda. The Nyungwe Forest National Park, just nestled between the mountains and some of the water features, and of course the mountain gorillas themselves. As we say, amazing creatures, and indeed the scheme to help them and their population to grow has been, I guess, an example to the world. It's fantastic. The mountain gorillas, and in fact in the lowland areas with the white rhinoceros as well. 70 new arrivals of the rhinos, and an ever-growing population of the mountain gorillas in the Volcano National Park. Something to be proud of for this nation. Well, there's one silverback, ascends the peaks. Another will take on some peaks and troughs of this course, and indeed it is a tough ask, I think it's fair to say, with over 600 metres of altitude gain compressed into this short time trial by some standards, but long by others. And in fact, if we talk about altitude gain, this course is the most peaky that we've had since 2001 in Lisbon. Can you believe that?
I can believe it. I can believe it, having seen everything at play earlier on today in the women's elite time trial. I think it's also notable, obviously, the structure of a course, the layout of it. It's not just looking at the pure elevation gain, as you know. It's the positioning of it in terms of pacing that effort. And I think a lot of riders have arrived here and had a good recon, a good look at exactly what lies ahead, and the severity of the latter part of this course, I think, has perhaps been bigger than people anticipated. But it's given us so much to talk about, and not only in the pacing and the form of the riders and their preparations for that, and potentially how much a rider has been able to train at altitude compared with riders that haven't. It's also the tech as well in terms of a rider's time trial position. How long are they able to stay in that position on a course like this? You know, we've seen a lot of the best riders being forced out of position with how much these gradients are biting when they're reaching the heights of around 11%. And you've also got to navigate cobbles. Is it again to stay in the skis, to stay in that position, or are you better off trying to power over them out of those bars? So it'll be really telling to see when we get the smaller time gaps coming through a little bit later as to how riders are approaching it. But we've talked a lot about the elevation gain, but of course on the other side of that we've got some really, really pivotal descents that do lend themselves to really high speeds, open wide roads. And how much can a rider continue to unleash power on that? That's where we can have an eagle eye on people's gearing choices.
This is Edwin Undungu of Kenya, about another famed place for its tea, I've got to tell you. Yeah, I do love a rich Kenyan black tea. It's just absolutely amazing. There is Kenyan white tea as well, but to be honest, the black tea is a heady brew. Gives you a boost. You tell I need one. Anyway, here is our friend, and to be honest, the second and third checkpoints are separated by not a mighty distance, but just to give you an example of how far ahead of the field that ISIGANWA is, he's been through the third checkpoint, and only 2 riders have been through the second checkpoint, which of course he led through as well. So it's going to be a proper benchmark for him. Just passing by one of the formal gardens here. Top topiary, I've got to say, around the fountain there, but haven't said that for a while. Meanwhile, just get himself slightly out of line here. Can't decide which side of the road to go to. Looking down, I hope he hasn't got a gear issue. I think it's just fatigue, just trying to settle in, because he's turning himself inside out. He's got to do so for another 5.2 kilometres, and the worst part of his run is still to come. Yes. It'll be the first view for some people of that test.
Yeah, it's a really, really neat ride, isn't it, from the ISIGANWA, and yeah, I think it's no surprise that he set off first, because what a benchmark he's setting, and we've been able to look now at some of these intermediate time splits and see the damage that he is doing and the vast time gaps, actually.
Goodness me.
Talking of which.
Yes, that is Apollino Carr of Guinea-Bissau, and he has just been speared by Dalhani of the Comoros Islands. And the pace difference there was absolutely startling. Meanwhile, a big pickup here by Jaikun Liu of China. Actually, do you know what? He looks like Bradley Wiggins on the bike here. Similar kind of style. Bradley had quite a shimmy, but a very, very effective time trialist he was as well.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not too shabby. Yeah, and we've talked about the contrast that we were expecting to see in sections of this field, let's say, and that has been so stark, that's been so apparent, but it is something that we've discussed a lot with some of these riders going off with these early time slots, is that we are seeing that variety.
Ethiopia's Bijay Radey going off. Next, it will be Briton John from Guyana. I think that's the right way around. Artem Nish will then be joining us, and it then starts to get really quite dialed in terms of those who are going to be on more favoured equipment, let's put it that way, and possibly going to start really affecting the timing sheets, but no disrespect to those who are up the road.
Absolutely not.
And loving the fact that our friend from Rwanda, ISIGANWA, is still bossing the field at the moment through every single checkpoint.
Yeah, really, really solid ride from the ISIGANWA. And as we saw, you can just get the visibility on how smooth a ride is, can't you? And he's just been in such a brilliant position all day, really, and yeah, he's got his sights on that hot seat, and we'll get eyes on that when he completes his ride, of course. And it's been really, really good to see from the Rwandan cyclist to go off on that start ramp first to really absorb this occasion. But of course, keeping ultimate focus. Talking of which, 2.3 kilometres remains for ISIGANWA of Rwanda. And then barring incident, which we very much hope we don't see, he will go into that hot seat first.
He's already on cobbles, as you can see. And right now, you'll see the shock waves just ripping through his wrists, elbows and shoulders here. This is not a comfortable surface.
It's not comfortable, but look at the way he's using that power transfer here and making relatively light work of a section we know is so difficult. And I think, the psychological aspect of coming in with so much on your shoulders for a rider like ISIGANWA today, I think it's amazing. And I've just said about this, enormous pressure, but the enormous support that comes with that as well. And I think different riders are able to absorb different levels of that out on the road, aren't they? Because some people like to shut that out, as you know, and just pure focus. Some people channel it, absorb it, use it to put in the best effort they possibly can. And some people just have to shut it out until they've finished, until it's job done. But he's doing a tremendous job over these cobbles and, just every inch of power transfer that he can now.
Loving watching him. Schemmel in his element, one can only hope. At the moment, he looks like he's tying up ever so slightly, but this is an awful lot steeper than perhaps it appears. And it's about to get even worse. It nudges up to, indeed, 11%. But look at the pace he is going at the moment. 13 and 14 kilometres per hour. It tells you exactly what he's having to deal with. Gravity is not his friend at the moment, I'm afraid. And in fact, there's a Heartbreak Hill, which is where he's coming to, where they go over several little rises. Upon every crest, they're thinking, well, redemption must be just over this next hill. And it's just not. It keeps going, doesn't it? Like some kind of pesky nightmare roller coaster ride through a house of horrors. And you're just waiting for to be gobbled up by the big beast at the end. And here we go. There is that 11% just ahead of him. Give him a cheer, everybody. He's going to need it.
Heartbreak Hill is a very good summary for this section of the course, isn't it? Because it's painful for us watching just how long this final 2 kilometres feels, let alone the rider that is out first, setting the benchmark today, and indeed every rider that takes on this elite time trial for the men today. It's agonising seeing just how long 1.5 kilometres remaining can be, but it's all about keeping as smooth as possible over this segment, and it has proven to be a big talking point already today in terms of how many elements are at play on this course. It's not just the elevation, it's not just the fact that we have a section of cobbles, it's where that comes in the course. And in terms of pacing, the riders know what lies ahead of them. They know that latter part is so pivotal. And also in the tech that they're using, what are the tyre pressures going to look like for this? Is that a big consideration for people? You do not want to fail with your kit coming in at that last point in the course when you might think you've got it in the bag. So every element of this time trial and the preparations for it have been really crucial.
This is Ahmed Bedreddin Wais, the refugee Olympic team, and I just love watching this man. I mean, he is clearly struggling, but he is, if nothing else, absolutely rack full of determination to make this count. 35 years of age now. He's been around for quite some time, but he's honoured us with his presence. And the very fact that he has the will to do this and just to drive himself on, it's a credit to him and indeed to those who have helped him to get here.
Completely, and I think at every level you have to focus on your own race, don't you? Everybody's got a target within a race, and it's going to look vastly different for different competitors, but it doesn't take anything away from the importance of that rider being here today. And that is the story for a lot of these early starters. But talking of early starters, ISIGANWA coming into the closing metres of his ride, and it has been brilliant today.
Good man, a very good man indeed. Well, we said around about an hour we could be seeing times. Well, he's trimmed that. He's going to be in the 56s by the time he finishes. He's still got these desperate little rises and falls which account for the last 300 or 400 metres. And it really is rather cruel. I mean, it's great entertainment for us. And he is smiling through the grimace as well, and bless him for that. He comes up out of the heat haze, which is still being displayed here, despite the clouds, which have just taken away the sunshine for a moment. But a beam of brightness is going to fall upon this man. He comes over this rise. He'll go into another one. And look at the reception he is receiving here. They're waiting for him, and so are we. He's going to be the first man to stop the clock on this men's elite world championship time trial, and he wants to finish under 57. He's going to do it as well. Wonderful.
What a ride from Shemu Nsengiyumva. Every inch of that hurt, but you could see the mix of grimace and pure delight coming into those crowds to finish a time trial effort of this magnitude. He, of course, was the first rider to start in this field today in that beautiful arena with so much sense of occasion, of importance around today. The first time we've had the World Championships, the UCI Worlds, come to Africa here in Rwanda, in Kigali, and he will now take to that hot seat. And yeah, that was a fine example of the local talent.
Some beautiful buildings here as well. This is the convention centre here in Kigali, modelled upon a beehive, apparently. Traditional beehive. Not one, I believe, built by bees, but they used to make beehives out of kind of bound rope. There we are. Built up in a spiral. You know, save you having to climb a tree to get your honey. That kind of thing. Anyway, moving on. More technology. Rope beehives. It's worth pondering. Gervais, we are looking at the moment, and we're waiting for our splits. Gervais, second quickest, 10 seconds down at the first split to Nsengiyumva, who has indeed completed the course. But showing you just how competitive the Rwandans are. They will naturally have practiced every single twist and turn, probably knows every single millimetre of this course. The man has just finished, but Laurent Gervais is on his case, and as we have seen earlier in the women's time trial, running a negative split, holding your pace throughout. I mean, our women's champion, I won't give the game away, did an amazing job of nailing every single split, to be fair, to achieve the title. Right now, Laurent Gervais may well be moderating his pace. He could be our leader at the end of this run.
And it's no small feat, is it, to achieve that? And we talk about riders mapping out their effort and knowing exactly what they can do, but doing that on race day with the different pressures that are thrown at a rider in that scenario, you can't guarantee it. You cannot guarantee mentally, physically how you're going to feel at each point. And yeah, how much you are absorbing on the day of all the potential difficulties thrown at you. And again, as we move up the list to the pointy end today, you know, there's riders that will have psychologists around them or have ultimate team support, will have played out every inch of this race in their head for quite some time before fielding it. But that's not going to be the case for everyone. But I think we're seeing the gains refined and refined for our top competitors, and it's fascinating from every element of the sport.
Some very vocal support, I must say, for Ahmed Orkan here. Well, I've seen him in action on the track, Ahmed. Also seen him in the Tour of Turkey. Well, a constant reminder of the history of this now great nation. And this is the Campaign Against Genocide Museum and their gardens. And a rather spectacular statue, I must say, as well. Stands as a proud testament to the courage, resilience and ultimate unity of the Rwandan people to put that unimaginable horror behind us and indeed move on. And having the UCI World Championships is absolutely part of indeed that celebration, that this is now a peaceful and beautiful nation with some extraordinarily friendly people that have welcomed us roundly. And Laurent Gervais at the moment is being screamed through every single benchmark, and he is standing up to the test, doing a phenomenal job. And I think the Canadian will be our leader at the end of this run. Let's see how his latest splits are going. He's coming to the second split. In fact, it'll be a little while before he gets there. In about 6 minutes' time, he should be there. And I think that he may well have taken control of this. Take nothing away from ISIGANWA. I think his run was absolutely one to write home about. This is Lake Kivu, as you can see. And it's an absolutely beautiful... It is, of course, a landlocked nation. But yet, of course, it does have these enormous bodies of water, and how beautiful they are as well. Almost tranquil. It kind of looks like an ocean opening up before you. I mean, some of the lakes in Africa are unbelievably large. Lake Victoria, many of you will know, is... I mean, you get to the middle of Lake Victoria and you may as well be in the Pacific Ocean. You have no sight of any land either side of it. It's so vast. And there's some big bodies of water as well, of course, here in Rwanda, which very much part of our backdrop today, and very beautiful they are too. Well, how beautiful that run is going to be for Gervais, we will wait to find out. Meanwhile, back to the start house. And it is Red Walters who is off the ramp for Grenada. You know, no rider who takes part in this is going to forget this. It is a life experience for everybody who witnesses it. It's lovely, isn't it?
It's spectacular. We were so excited at the start of the day, and it's just delivered, hasn't it? It's not disappointed whatsoever. It's, yeah, in every element of it, it's been a real joy, a real pleasure to observe this so far, and it's going to get better and better as more of our riders manifest their rides today. But we've, of course, got such big talking points in our contenders. We've mentioned people, including Ghana, that aren't here, but the people that are here are, yes, are going to certainly get our tongues wagging. And we have Tadej Pogačar going later, much later on, of course, as we'd expect. But Remco Evenepoel wants to make history, and the biggest talking point coming into this has been their head-to-head and what the outcome of that might be today. Let's
see, shall we? They measure each other's success against each other, and why not have that ultimate benchmark? I often think that the likes of Remco Evenepoel, you know, they say Tadej Pogačar, somebody like Tadej Pogačar comes along once in a lifetime. Why did it have to be in my lifetime? Because, I mean, it is a dominant performance by Tadej Pogačar. He skipped the Vuelta, so I'm actually wondering what sort of shape he's going to be in to take on Remco Evenepoel, who's also had a bit of a gap himself, of course, by design, stepped off the bike in the Tour, as you well know, changing teams. So we'll see what sort of mood he's coming here. I think the very fact that Remco Evenepoel could get the hat-trick 3 in a row, it's too big to pass up, surely.
It's a big mind game, isn't it? Yeah. Between those two riders, and we are here for it. We absolutely love that battle. And I just think, from looking at all the anecdotes and quotes in the press so far from Remco this week, he's so confident and he's really throwing it out there, isn't he, publicly to Pogačar, which makes it even more of a joy for us to anticipate.
Aurélien de Comeron is next, riding for Mauritius. Do you know what? I want them to come to my next birthday party. I like this vibe.
You're going to have to see about arranging it. It would be spectacular, wouldn't it?
I could put a hip out, to be honest, quite easily. We thought about going to a samba bar last night. We thought again because we were just we were dedicated to you.
Well, I was going to say we decided to talk about development of skin suits and things like that instead. But it did sound good. Next time.
Next time. Gervais still catching. In fact, I think this is his second. I was going to say minute man, but it's 2.5 minute men, isn't it, in front of him? So Gervais is eating into the crowd. In fact, he's caught 3 riders out there. That was Ricardo Sogede. He's just moved by from Benin. So he looks like he is having a very effective run as we dwell on, of course, the Volcanoes National Park once again. These volcanoes, you know, there's two ways to form mountains. One is by tectonic motion, and the other is, of course, by volcanic activity. One gets thrown up from the deep, and the other is the movement of the Earth's crust. I mean, I'm telling you, you're getting it all here.
That's at least my second geography lesson of the day.
No, there'll be more.
One was teaching me how time zones work.
We are playing here in Kigali, this wonderful capital of the great country of Rwanda. And we are loving the cycling so far. It's about to get very, very intense. And I think our benchmark, our next one, in fact, I think he's just coming up to our next split in a few moments' time. We, of course, are busying ourselves not only in keeping it... Oh, hello, it's Cox gone red against him. So still, ISIGANWA has the advantage. Now it's 13 seconds down. It looks like it's going to be magnified far more than that. So what's Gervais got for the latter part of the course? And I don't think he's got the measure of ISIGANWA, who has done an absolute dream start. We had no reference to it until this moment. But the very fact that Gervais has been found out by this kind of margin, all it does is underscore what the Rwandan did a little bit, Rwandan champion, I should say, Shemu did a little bit earlier on. Because this is 3 times the advantage.
Yeah, it was a really, really stunning early ride, really solid performance. So after the first intermediate time check, Florian Vermeersch came in 45 seconds up on ISIGANWA and Gervais at 56. But he looks to be coming, let's have a confirmation of what happens at this second intermediate time check.
He's just been through it, 39, near enough. 38.82, there it is.
There we go, confirmation of that.
So Liu at 2 minutes and 44. So still Rwanda will be indeed continue the dancing band theme, because they've got a lot to celebrate with a fantastic performance by their national champion and ISIGANWA, who has done an amazing job and is still out of reach. I'll be getting in touch with Anthony McCrossan a little bit later on, because the Kimu Ronku market have got a special hat sale tonight. And I'm just hoping that it can bring me back something rather special. Let's wait and see. Baskets, shoes, kitchenware, and artisan-made crafts, and homemade herbal remedies. That sounds like a winter warmer. Meanwhile, Gervais sails by another. This is Dalanyi of the Comoros Islands. Very sort of old school looking coloured kit there. I actually really quite like that. In the old racing days, the solid, the national colours were reflected, and they had to have they had a meeting, and I believe it was in France, to decide on the national racing colours of all nations. And apparently we missed the boat, the Brits did, and got to the meeting late, and all that was left was green, which is British racing green. There we are. So there we are. Don't know why. But let's go for a little heli shot over the magnificent tea plantations once again. Still haven't had a cup of tea. Anyway, it's time for Mr. Munton. Byron, in fact. Well, somebody, of course, well known for a Grand Tour. Let's see how he gets on. I was talking Byron there, but anyway, that was a long time ago. This is Byron Munton for the Republic of South Africa. In fact, for many years, of course, African success generally tended to focus on South Africa, but the focus has kind of moved to include many other nations of the great continent, hasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just keeping an eagle eye here. I'm distracting myself on the performance of Vermeersch. And we've talked a lot about our expectations in different tech setups, and just look at the contrast here as we're starting to see him go through these timing points. And 45 seconds he was up on ISIGANWA at the first time check. And we'll see what plays out in the rest of his ride for Belgium. But I've also been trying to really have a look at the gear selection of some of these riders, because I think what will happen as we get further on today will be that differences can be made on these descents, and so I think again it's been quite a difficult measure to get of the preparation of the bike, given the elevation gain, but given how much they'll want to unleash as much power as possible on other parts of this course, including those wide descents. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get a bike close-up of Florian Vermeersch in a moment.
This looks like a dried up mangrove lake, I believe, in the Agera National Park, because just the very nature of it. It looks like, indeed, this is a dry lake. Maybe it has been warmer than in other parts of the year. We're in one of the 2 dry seasons. There are 2 dry seasons, 2 wet seasons. So we are in a dry season, although I've got to say, with the billowing clouds here and a look of glissé upon the road, I actually wonder if we haven't had a little bit of light rain through the course by the looks of things.
Yeah, it does look that way, doesn't it now? And we've been speculating as to these conditions, as to whether or not things like air condition, air quality, and the altitude we're at, and the humidity level, like, all these things have been discussion points, haven't they, coming in? I'm just seeing the pure image of joy and enthusiasm there, which has not waned all day from our crowds here.
Still waiting for Canada to finish, but they have another rider off and underway as Laurent Gervais is out on course. This is Michael Leonard who starts now. Took a big step with his 10th place in the Basque Country, but not performed at the same level since. But as you can see with his feisty start here, he means business. He's on full attack mode, gets himself on the skis right now. He can climb well as a time trialist, so he's got that skill set to his name. Possibly handicapped by the route. Let's wait and see. I think that he will be okay, and he certainly started busy.
Yeah, and it's really good, isn't it, to see riders just explode out of the start arena, down that ramp out, and you can just see how people are settling into their ride. And it's so nerve-wracking to get the pacing right today. Yep. I'm having to hold back because I keep going to talk about the result of the women's race, but I am going to hold back on that. But it is interesting to hear insights from riders that have taken to the course earlier today and saying that even themselves haven't known whether they've got the pacing right during the ride, because the plans have somewhat gone out the window on the course today. And you were saying we might have well seen the skies open up a little bit, and some of the riders were saying when a lot of the Europeans arrived to Rwanda in preparation for today and the start of this World Championships, that they weren't sure what to expect from the conditions, from the humidity, from this part of the world. So it's been interesting to see how riders have fared, and not all of us have been able to predict how some riders are going to fare, even if they are favourites on paper. And here's Florian Vermeersch for Belgium. 17.2 kilometres remaining for him.
Target time was a 34.26. I think he's going to breach that, so he should be in the lead, but it's a question of just by how much. And unfortunately, we just cut away from him at a rather important moment. Because, with the Belgians getting an extra pass because they have the defending champion Remco Evenepoel, Florian Vermeersch is kind of here as a guest. And so he's taken his opportunity to go for it. This is Ryan Taramay. Now, somebody who on his day can actually produce very, very good time trials. The Estonian is often in the service of others, so he doesn't, even if there's a time trial in a stage race, he will often not be allowed to fully go for it because he's got to be a support rider within his trade team. So he wouldn't be expected to turn himself inside out for a time trial and give himself a chance of winning it. Today, he's got a great chance of going strongly. So Ryan Taramay will go well. We're still waiting, though, to see what Florian Vermeersch does through this split. And here it is. Now, don't forget, 34.26 is his time. He's easily going to be ahead of that. And so this will be our new benchmark. Now, he was trailing, don't forget, by, he had an advantage, I beg your pardon, at the first split of 45 seconds. Let's see what his advantage is this time. Has he held on to it? We'll get 3 checks along the way, and of course our finale at the end. We'll see if he's tying up just a little bit or whether he's managed to extend it. The clock will stop, of course, when he just bridges this corner. You'll see that. Still very much green. It'll stay green against him, and he has found another 6 seconds. So this is going to come down to how he can cope with the final climb over the cobbles, which we'll be seeing a little bit later on. But for now, he's in the bird seat.
He certainly is, and we were expecting this, weren't we, when we looked down our start list at who was perhaps a little bit more of an earlier starter today, and we expected big things at this point from Ish, and he's delivering that, and it's really interesting. But you can see that YOSE put in a really solid benchmark for everybody to follow today, but this is, a solid ride from the Belgian with 16.2 kilometres remaining. Just getting more aerial shots here of our area here in Rwanda. But yes, back to your point on riders' priorities and how different that will look coming into a World Championships. And I think that that's another really interesting element to this, is we can compare how a rider has approached a time trial, of course, in the likes of a Grand Tour. But, as you've well pointed out, that is probably not a priority for a lot of this field if they are working in support of teammates. So when they come in with a solo objective from themselves, that's when we really get to see some riders shine.
Darren Rafferty off the ramp. Again, somebody else that's often in the service of others. And so this will be an opportunity for him to have a straight run at this. When it comes to time trials, you wouldn't possibly say that Darren Rafferty would be at top of your list. But I think he can wrestle a route, and this is one of those which is set for a proper battle. We're coming to Leonard. He's only about 5.5 minutes into his run, so he's a long way from the first checkpoint. However, just dwelling very briefly on the second and third checkpoints are really quite close together. When you're at full flight, they're probably only about 6 minutes apart, 6 or 7 minutes apart. So we're going to get the next Vermeersch checkpoint in just a moment's time. And my feeling is, well, let's see. If he found another, 7 seconds from his first checkpoint, he added to the margin that he had. In fact, let me just double check that. 6 seconds. I know there's some pedants of you out there, and you want these things absolutely bang on. So he was leading by 45.2 at the first checkpoint, leading by 51.7 at the second checkpoint. But the third checkpoint comes to us a bit like ground rush, so he's going to be through that very, very soon. It's a power part of the course, as you can see. He's holding a great line here, just inside that those yellow markers, and he's nearly there. So if the margin is bigger than 51 seconds advantage, so 51 seconds in green, he's holding it, and we'll see how he delivers it a little bit later on. Meanwhile, it's delivery time for our friend from the Olympic refugee team, and it is Ahmed Bedreddin Wais who is going to come home and stop the clock. It's not about the time for this man, it's about the very fact that he's here at all, and we salute him.
We certainly do. A real story of inspiration from this rider fielding today, and as you say, that's the important factor. Getting sights once again on these crowds, and we know from the Tour of Rwanda that they are pretty spectacular, but that's elevated further today, and this means so much here in Rwanda.
I just love the way that when the riders pop up over the brow there, as he stops the clock at 8 minutes and 21, all we see from the crowd is the back of their heads, because they're all watching for the rider. And that is an acclamation of their love for the sport, and I love them back for it.
We do. We love to see that, because we don't always see it. And they are just purely absorbed in this bike race today. And what a bike race it is.
Here we go. This is going to be a big one. So Vermeersch is possibly about 1.5 minutes, I would say, away from stopping the clock right now. Let's see, 11.3 kilometres is what he has remaining. And I think we're going to ride along with him because this will be an important juncture for us. When he stops the clock, he's got to do it at the end of this little highway. There's a slight turn in the road, and he's, you know, there's a lot to be said for riding the painted surface, but he doesn't seem to be too bothered about that. But this, the reason he's not holding a solid line is partially exhaustion, but also the amount of power he's delivering. There's a lot of torque going through the back wheel here, and he means business. This is going to be a good time.
Yeah, he really does. And yeah, it's really interesting to see the variation of styles on the bike as we switch between riders. But that is what is going to be so crucial in these time splits today, isn't it? It's just how much power these riders can get out. And I think Luke Platt was saying in his pre-race interview, wasn't he, that actually it's not respite on this course, is it? It's any respite is where you've got to make the difference, where you've got to keep challenging your rivals, and where you've got to ultimately keep that power down, which is where it comes into the consideration of the gear ratios that these riders are looking at to get scaling up those ascents over the cobbles without difficulty, but also maximising these really fast, wide, powerful sections like Vermeersch's.
Well, his target time at this third checkpoint is a 41.50, and you will excuse me, see the little inflatables in a few moments' time. He's reaching out for them. There's an amazing aqua park here, but I think it's mountain filled for some of the runoff that we get from the high ground which surrounds us here. Garcia Piana, a very good track cyclist, I have to say. And coming with track cycling is often a level, especially if you're a 6-day racer, a level of discomfort and bike handling, which I think is magnified in terms of what they offer. So yeah, I expect Garcia Piana to actually have a pretty good run. We'll have more on him in a moment. Check this out. Clock still rolling. Green. There's the Tissot timing point, and minute and a half.
Wow.
Goodness me, he has found 39 more seconds in the very short jump between checkpoints 2 and 3. There's not much gap between those checkpoints. He's absolutely eating the course, and he'll be our new leader for sure.
Yeah, Florian Vermeersch will become our leader of this race for Belgium. We haven't had a huge amount of opportunity to see ISIGANWA in that hot seat, have we? But it's always so interesting to watch a rider happily. We were so delighted to see him take into that spot for Rwanda, going off as the first rider on our start ramp. But yeah, I mean, riders know generally, don't they, when their time is going to be up in that seat, especially when you've got someone like Vermeersch out on the course. So yeah, I like to sometimes see the moment that a rider is just waiting with bated breath to see how long they're going to sit in a chair. But yeah, it's been brilliant that the Rwandan cyclist has been given the opportunity to take that on early today.
You want to see an ideal cyclist torso? Look no further here than Michael Leonard. It's that sort of conical shape, allowing you to have enormous lung capacity with a very tight waist. Sort of the upside down of my torso, really. But anyway, yeah.
Stop it.
That is the idea. Meanwhile, back downstairs.
Meanwhile.
Yes, Mr. Vermeersch. He's got the most difficult part of the course still to deal with, and nothing is certain in this game. And thankfully, so far today, we haven't seen any technicals, have we?
No, I can't believe you've gone there and said it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we'll just apologise now for the curse that we're giving for all the subsequent riders on this course. But yeah, I mean, that is a big consideration. You need everything to go your way. You probably want to look at refining tyre pressures over those cobbles because it comes quite late in the day.
Sobrero takes off the ramp here, and Matteo Sobrero, it's kind of the other Italian, isn't it? We always talk about Pippo Ganna, and but I mean, fancy living in his shadow. I mean, he's a big lad; he casts a big shadow, but in more ways than one, not just physically, but metaphorically as well. Matteo Sobrero, it's his chance to come out from underneath that shadow here today. What can he do?
Yeah, it's a really good point, isn't it? Because, yeah, for anyone just joining us, we've noted some of the big names that we would always expect to look for, like Vagana in a time trial. But there have been many riders today given that opportunity, including him, to shine. And, yeah, I'm here for it. I think it's going to be really exciting. And we've got a very interesting field out here today. And as we see each and every one of those go off, we're going to see these time gaps just be tighter and tighter. And the absolute fireworks that I can vaguely say that we were offered in the women's race. But yeah, I think, again, we talk a lot about psychology playing a part. And if you have felt that you are not the nation's priority, that you're not team number one, I mean, that's got to have an effect. So to be told, right, you've got the backing, you've got your opportunity to target this, go for it, I mean, that's got to make a difference, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And Sobrera's got a great chance as well. In the Vuelta, he crashed in the team race, the team time trial. And that was a missing piston, basically, for his team. And so he has to pick himself up and just get on with the belief of doing something special. I think Sobrera will go really strongly today. I think he's one of those outside picks because he's got the chance to shine, and I think he will.
And you can't underestimate that. And it's such a game, our sport, isn't it? In every element of it. And you can have the out-and-out favourite that doesn't have it all their way on the day. And that does happen. And it happens, it happens a lot in our sport. And that's why you can never say, right, this is how we're going to see the conclusion of a race play out before we've seen it. That's why we love our sport. But I do think psychology is being considered more and more. And riders are placing importance on that. And you've got to have the belief. You've got to ultimately have the belief, especially on a time trial, because the headspace that you go to, which is why I was never good at a time trial, is because, especially on a course of this distance, you can go to many different places in your head, and to keep that ultimate belief in your timing, in your pacing of it, it's not easy.
This course is not easy either. Liu goes second, but gives away well over 1 minute and 50, as you've seen at the line. That tells you just how big the gaps are, and what a great job that ISIGANWA has indeed produced. Here's Luke Plapp. He's off and underway. He's only just departed, and this will again be somebody who, provided he keeps it upright, could have a very fine run today. He's had a pretty wild season, to be honest. Half a Giro and a whole tour is what you might say. What's he going to snack on today? Let's find out, shall we? That is how we stack up Liu with 3 minutes and 28. I misread an intermediate time. The difference between first and second, what this is doing is telling you what our Rwandan champion Shemu did. That was brilliant.
Yeah, ISIGANWA put in a really solid early ride. First rider off, of course, for Rwanda. Took to that hot seat. But yeah, we don't always know what to expect early on, do we, when we're seeing the start order of the day. But a really solid ride from the Rwandan rider.
Here is Gervais, and it's just going to go against him. There it is at the line. I had quite high hopes for Gervais. In fact, he lost a lot of time between the first and the second checkpoints. Looks like he's regathered some of that time, but this is the Heartbreak Hill that we talk about. You go into a series of little, what look like ramps, and you think the finish line must be just over this one, and no, you've got another hill to climb, and here he comes. Just into our consciousness right now, and he's going to end up 40 plus seconds down, I'm afraid, by the time he crosses the line. But strong effort, that should be good enough for second place at the moment, and it is as the countdown continues. Seychelles, we spoke to him earlier, said he was a bit surprised by the conditions here, weather conditions we're talking, the humidity, and indeed almost the heaviness possibly of expectation. I expect him to go very well. Back to Luke Plapp. Well, the last time we saw him, he was actually pretty fresh, 7th in San Sebastian. But the thought is that he has been keeping everything for today. Australian time trial champion, and with the likes of Turbo Durbo hanging around, he was, in fact, I think smashed him in 21, didn't he? And then was a champion in 24, and indeed this year as well, which is why he wears the old green and gold. And I like Luke
The
Plapp.
old green and gold.
Yeah, that's what they call it, mate.
Oh, like so many of the Aussies, he's got such a brilliant personality,
Yes,
isn't he, that it brings us well. And I was just like looking back at his interview that he offered us earlier today. He says he's absolutely stoked to be here, which I love as a quote. And his summary of the course was the downhills are rapid.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that element of not thinking, well, this descent's a respite. Of course, for riders like Plapp, they are going to be capitalising on absolutely everything they can there. And it'll be interesting to see, if we get eyes on that point of the course, what he can carry through that dead turn as well, because I think that's where we're going to start seeing riders when it gets down to the level of Luke Plapp, of Tadej Pogačar, of Remco Evenepoel. That's where the pressure is going to be put on, and you've got to get that balance right. You can't push it to the point where you risk coming off on a turn, but equally if your rivals are giving it everything through that, you've got to do that as well. But I think that's where riders come into a TT with such a clear idea of how they're going to ride it and sticking to that as much as humanly possible.
Onto the cobbles, and in fact it's about the 2 kilometre mark where you get the steepest gradients here. It says that's extended over 1.3. Forget that. It's actually longer. It's actually a margin bigger than that. You hit the 11% very, very soon, and you can see the way the buildings here are indented. You can also see from his pace, quite frankly, this will be knocked back for him probably to about 16 to 20 kilometres per hour, which is slow for him. Meanwhile, Mauro Schmidt gets off and underway out of the start house. This could actually prove to be maybe a little bit of a surprise. And you see what I was talking about. It's about 2Ks out, isn't it? The steepest part of it, not 1,300 metres. So it's actually a lot more intense from a lot further out. 13 kilometres an hour. This is the hurt zone. Yeah. 2Ks out.
It really is. And I was talking earlier about how this section of cobbles comes in the latter point. Of course, you don't want to have a flat, you don't want to have a problem mechanical at any point in a T2 course. Of course you don't. But what I was alluding to is the fact that this is kind of a bit of a late surprise for the riders, isn't it? It looks like on paper, on the profile, that it's quite short, but it drags for so long for these riders. It's a long couple of kilometres to that line, and we often talk about riders making that decision when we've got more hilly terrain in these time trials. We talk about riders looking at whether they would use a traditional TT setup or a road bike setup, and of course riders will have gone for the TT today, but we're seeing riders out of position, perhaps more than we would have expected, on some of these, not only the gradients but the road surface as well. And this is a really big fight towards the end of this time trial, which is why pacing has been so key, because riders going out on the arguably much more simple first part of the course, they all have in mind that this is what awaits them, this is what lies before that final for them, before they reach that finish line. And it might smooth out, but it doesn't necessarily flatten out either. So we're just seeing Vermeer reach that real pinch point now.
I don't know who Newell is, but his fan club are in. And here we go. Mugisha is about to come off the ramp. And this is why they are screaming for him. Mweze, he is, of course, Rwandan. Well, at the moment, they've got one in the hot seat and one in the start house. They've bookended the day beautifully. For how much longer is anybody's guess. Listen to this.
It's absolutely incredible to witness this history in the making today.
Listen to this. That is brilliant. Do you know, just the joy of it is something to witness. 1,200 metres from the line is Vermeersch. Now, he was outstanding in the UAE Tour. I had the privilege of being there. Brilliant in Belgium as well. But then he goes and disappoints in Wallonie and in Great Britain as well, Tour of Britain. What can he do here? I think he's going to be in the hot seat, but for how long is anybody's guess, because he blows so hot and cold. I think the very fact that we've had a mixed course as well will suit him. So I think this is going to be a strong time, and maybe one that will stand the test of a lot of time that remains to us.
And this is one of those points, isn't it, where we can't fully appreciate from the sights on our TV screens just what these gradients are doing to these riders at this point in the race. And you could just see the fatigue going through Florian Vermeersch there for Belgium, couldn't you? And he's got 700 metres to go, but this is not a straightforward, easy 700 metres. He's driving everything back in this time trial position, back on the skis to just pull everything. But this gives us a better indication that camera shot we just got of just how much this is biting here.
Do you know what? I think you could swap the bike for a skateboard and he'd still come home with an advantage. That is an amazing margin that he has at this point on the course. And he is going to be our new leader. We'll see how long he manages to sit in the comfy velvet green chair. But right now, he's already into the hoarded section. He's collecting yet more riders along the way. I think he's actually hoovered up 5 on his run. And so the Belgian is, once the motorcycle takes the screen away from us, here he comes up over the crest. There's another crest still to be had. I think he is still going to have more than a minute and a half by the time he reaches the line. And look at all the faces looking at him and not at us. Look at that. That is proper fans of a proper sport.
That is just spectacular to witness the scenes here today in Kigali, Rwanda. Look at the effort of Vermeersch to put in that time.
He trims 1 minute and 51 off the best time so far. He is our glorious leader as Andreas Leknesund gets off the start ramp. He's out of the house, not out of the arena just yet, and the drummer's still doing a fabulous job. The only Scandinavian representative this year, Leknesund. Yeah, let's see. Never really been a time trialist, but you know what? He is fantastic at mixed terrain, and this is precisely that. Don't be surprised if he gets a top 10. What about this, man?
That's what we're seeing today, isn't it? That's what we're seeing from this course, is that the unpredictability of it has meant that it's not easy to conclude what that top 10 is going to look like, and it gives so much more jeopardy to this race, which is ultimately why we love it. Look at this setup. You're talking about the colours of the Australian national kit here, but that is a spectacular paint job and setup there. But here we're seeing Florian Vermeersch. I mean, we knew that this might be the scenes after a time trial of that distance, but you could see just emptied everything out the tank as you would. But I think what's also difficult when you go at that point in the day is, yes, he's come in with a brilliant time gap there. He'll go into that hot seat, but of course, we've got so many of the big contenders to come, and mentally it's very hard to know what's going to follow that ride.
Here comes the old cone torso, Mr. Leonard. He's going to bring this one in. Let's see how he is running through the course. Rebecca's lost it now. He was third at the first intermediate. Let's have a look. He's looking for, in fact, he's a way off it. I beg your pardon. He's got a way to go before he gets to his second intermediate. His target is a 33.34, and I think my friend Michael Shea Leonard is indeed going to do something a bit special here today. He looks like he is fully on it, so I'm putting a lot of eggs in the mixture here. Meanwhile, back to this bike.
You're meanwhile baking a cake.
I am. And what would you call this? Vanilla blueberry? Custard and mint? I don't know. It's.
Can we call Luke Platt vanilla? I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah, I do worry and wonder about some kits, but others I absolutely love. And here is the South Africa. This is a proper yippee flag, isn't it? South Africa, if you put it on its end. But yes, he's off and underway. That's Brandon Downs. Alexander Meyer is next. Then it'll be Will Barter. Miguel Heidemann and Tiedemann Arensman, where indeed very much we start to think about the juicy steaks that are still to come, including Isaac Del Toro, who is, I don't know, the best bit of sirloin you're likely to see today. Let's see how tasty his performance is. Meanwhile, Plapp still digging in. And here he goes. He's got a long way to go at the moment. Yeah, sometimes I just think designers, they've actually got a bit more sensible of late. And I think designers become a bit more human and a bit less graphical. You know, a lot of designs that they were too sharp, they were a bit too messy, and now we're going back to the classical stuff. And I absolutely love the classical stuff. Never been a big fan of faded gradient colours. And do you remember, it just looked like a laundry accident to me. But thankfully, we're now back to good old solid block colours, and you can always rely on Canada to produce a good kit.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now. You've set off my thought process with like a colour fade.
Do you remember
I know what you mean.
Do you remember the Netherlands kit, which was just dots, and you couldn't see the famous orange had just gone. And basically, it just looked like some kind of visual trick that they were playing on us.
I do wonder sometimes when you feel like a team has absolutely nailed the most beautiful kit and then they change it the season after, and that's disappointing. So, no, I hear you. And it's important. It's important. But talking of which, it is really interesting to see at this level who's been given some freedom to perhaps do a little bit more aero testing in terms of the, of course, the equipment, but the skin suits that have been developed for certain riders, whether or not the whole... every rider in that federation is going to be wearing the same, or whether riders have placed more importance on that. And I think that's what's been a really interesting talking point, where people have been doing so much speculation on the battle between Pogačar and Evenepoel, because we know they've both had probably quite a handy amount of time to do their refinements in terms of preparations for today, because we know it's a huge target for both of them. Of course, a target for Luke Plapp, who we've got eyes on now with 30 kilometres remaining, just having eyes now as he has that first intermediate split.
Here we go. Surprisingly, red against him at the moment, but he will thrive better on some of the peaky stuff later on. He's 19 seconds down. That's only the first intermediate. If he's running what we've been referring to as a negative split, it means he's going to keep something back to deliver it later on. Yes, the 2023 Netherlands kit was basically, somebody thought, I know, let's get rid of the orange. And I don't know who that person was with that conversation, but it didn't work, and nobody could tell them. One of the greatest things in cycling for the Dutch is just being able to see the bright orange flying by, normally up ahead of you.
I was going to say, they're not bad, are they?
Here, check this out. Second intermediate. Florian Vermeersch's time is under threat. And it's our friend from South Africa, of course, the southern tip of this great continent, who's gone deep early at the second intermediate. He's in there. How's about that? 7 seconds, second quickest. He means business.
Look at this. Look at this. And that's what we are seeing play out on this course today, is you cannot conclude from that first time check how people are necessarily going to be completing and finishing off today. And I just love looking at the different styles on the bike and how people are able to just capitalise on staying neat, keeping the aero gains where possible. And it's not straightforward today, is it, in terms of keeping position? We've got so much to contend with in the latter parts of this course. And, well...
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's
you know what?
It's fascinating.
I'm anti-fussy. I don't like fussiness. I like things straight up. And I love the fact that here they have the cuddly toy, which is almost essential these days for any winner, is a gorilla. Of course it is. The mountain gorilla, which of course Rwanda is renowned for. Don't mess around with that kind of stuff. Do you remember the London Olympics? They had something that looked a bit like a mobile phone.
I remember this.
Oh, check it out. And yeah. And what is it from Atlanta? Get a cheap one on eBay anytime you like. Barter gets off and underway. William Barter is here, and he is here to do some damage, and it's to the opposition. He's going to have to do a little bit to himself as well throughout this course because it is tough, and Will Barter departs the field. Meanwhile, Leonard, check this out. Oh my goodness, the times are a-tumbling, and Vermeersch, if that was a good time, this is an enormous time. King Torso is bringing it home. I told you.
I was waiting for that, Carlton. But this
Super
is
Cone.
proving to be as thrilling.
Leonard Cohen. Go on. I'll sing the song in a minute.
Go on. I'll just give you that freedom. That's what you are progressing towards here.
Was it Suzanne takes me down to this place by the river, or was it? I can't remember. Anyway, he's my man. Come on, Leonard. This is going to be brilliant. I told you he was looking good. You wouldn't have it.
You did. We worry, don't we, about commentators' curse, but you've, this one's been a blessing.
He's got all the physical attributes of what is needed. He is spearing through the wind here, amazingly so. 10th place in the Basque Country. We always knew, when I saw him racing there, I thought, hang on a minute, this is really good. And from the early runners, my Canuck friend here is going to deliver something rather special. A little bit of a waver on the front wheel, but that's because he's taken in banking here, and he's just makes a lovely transition to the other side of the road. He's already spying the apex that he's got to hit. He gives himself a quick look, then straight back down into the aero position to maintain it. Double check to make sure he's not getting out of line. This is fantastic riding at the moment. He knows he's on a downhill section, which has got a technical left-hander at the bottom, so he needs to shed a bit of speed. So he takes this beautiful right-hander, screams down, he'll have a left-hander, and then just has to deal with the rest of the course to bring me deep joy. Meanwhile, Van Wilder is doing it for Belgium, but I'm afraid Vermeersch in the hot seat is going to have to start thinking about a plastic stacker, because he's not going to be sitting in there for much longer if Leonard keeps this up.
No, and it's so fascinating to look at the position. Like, we've discussed it endlessly, but now we are getting to this end of the action where that makes such a huge difference. And you could see him just like quick look up, as you say, and then back into position, because it's just constantly teetering on that balance, isn't it, of holding the best aero position you possibly can, but of course not allowing yourself to make any mistakes up the road on any of these turns. If any sections become a little bit more technical, you've got to be ready for that. Of course they know what lies ahead, but in practice that can be very different when you're doing this at the extreme race paces that we're seeing now. But I just really enjoy watching people get in and out of that position, because the longer you can keep it, whilst keeping it upright, of course, and manoeuvring these turns and dead turns, especially to come back up the other way, as we're seeing on today's course, you know, the more the gains have been made for riders. But yeah, you can just see now how much riders are utilising every inch of those descents that they can pedal on just to maximise the gains. But yeah, be a little bit more tentative on that turn.
Ryan Tara-May is a good time trialist, and Michael Shade Leonard is proving that potentially he is a great time trialist today. When we looked at the course originally, it seemed a bit of a stinger as far as fully committed traditional time trialists. But if you function on mixed terrain, you can thrive today. And I feel that that this man, Michael Leonard, is doing just that. Also, Canada seem to be able to mark themselves out for greatness. They seem to time their runs, either that into the Olympics, into the World Championships, into just about anything that is required. They seem to time their runs absolutely brilliantly. They always thrive on track and road, and right now this man is thriving on this time trial.
And that's what you need, isn't it? So we just watch him take that turn. And it's such a fine art, but also to be given the ability to do that, as you say, to do it effectively, because of course everybody's season can look very different, and to get your preparations and your timing right, and to decide when you look at the wider season, or not even just one season, when you're looking at Olympic cycles and how you place importance on World Championships, you can't peak for absolutely everything. And it might sound obvious, but when we've seen riders who just seem to be on this endless run of luck, we then see them get a big illness or an injury, and you're always looking at the longevity, not only of success, but your career and your well-being and your health and your ability to back up performances. So when we see people do it very well, there's a lot that's gone into that behind the scenes, of course.
Utter niche, second quickest so far, giving away 34 seconds to Florian Ramirez. Would have been favoured by the course. He's quite a good sort of hills man. So maybe somebody as well that you would have expected to produce a spectacular performance here. Second quickest so far, and albeit giving away 34 seconds. All of the timing sheets are about to be ripped up, as indeed Michael Leonard will be coming home fairly shortly. Here indeed is Luke Plapp. Looks like he's chugging just a little bit. That's not a classical position he's in at the moment. Does get there right now. We'll see how he is thriving or struggling a little bit later on. Indeed, as far as the latest times are concerned, Luke Plapp was fourth at the first timing point, giving away 19 seconds. We'll see whether that's been magnified or whether he's held on to the margin for this next one. It will give us an indication of how much he's got left for the rest of the run.
Yeah, it will. I'm just having a look down now at some of these earlier splits, and yeah, we just had sight on Luke Plapp, didn't we? Just sort of going back into that position and just getting himself back to where he wanted to be physically in that position on the bike. Van Wilder here for Belgium. Again,
this is potentially going to be a trim. He's still got a way to go to get to Michael Leonard's time, which really did give us a big wake-up. But Van Wilder as well is going to set yet a new benchmark. We are loving this. We're seeing the pendulum swing almost constantly, and it's back into the Belgian vanguard right now by a margin of 42 seconds. What a trim that is.
It certainly is. Just getting sights as it just gets better and better as we go. But back we are at the start ramp.
Del Toro, what a prospect. And I mean, how has he carried himself out of the Giro d'Italia, for goodness sake? And what might have been? We ask that so often, don't we, of so many riders, particularly at the beginning of their career. How do they cope with that? Making a lot of headlines, of course. I mean, he's one of those spectaculars, really. A lot is hanging upon his shoulders of Isaac Del Toro, isn't it?
There is, and it's down to, again, how riders handle that, isn't it? Yeah. And I think we do often look at the stars of our sport at that level that he's at. You expect riders to become superhuman, to not... I think something that we've seen become more prevalent recently is riders saying, do you know what, I do absorb the press, I do know what people are saying about me, and I do have to measure that when I come into big targets. And I think, sometimes we do make the assumption that when a rider is so good that it's water off a duck's back and they're not absorbing that. But there's so many different elements to it, to keeping your calm and to keeping your mental well-being coming into all these targets as well. And I just think that, understandably, you're going to have pressure, huge pressure on riders' shoulders. But we do sometimes have to remind ourselves that these riders are also human. And we've seen it prominently this season, haven't we? We've seen Lotte Kopecky actually come out and say, I'm just being really honest about, I'm just not having a great time this season. I've suffered with endless injuries. I've suffered with illness, with setbacks, and people are talking about me like I'm just always going to win regardless of that. And whilst it's nice to have belief in a rider, sometimes that rider just isn't going to be at their best for whatever reason. And I think she's really highlighted that there's a lot of different pressures that come with that.
You know, choosing your friends is one thing. Choosing your entourage when you are a professional as well is also of magnified importance, because the demands that they make, you have to ask yourself at a certain part in your career whether they are demanding something from you that is best for them or best for you. And sometimes there's a difference between the two, without naming any names or wanting to get involved with any finger pointing. But you know, some riders, they're just handled badly. Let's put it that way. They don't get the right guidance. And when you're a young man as well, like Isaac Del Toro, he's 21 years of age. He was runner-up in the Giro d'Italia. And he got an awful lot of stick for not winning the Giro d'Italia. For goodness sake, he's a kid. Leave him alone.
But I think that is what so quickly happens. Sometimes I have to go back to a rider's stats and go, they're only 21. And I think that, again, it goes back to that assumption that once somebody has shown either promise or a big result or has gone up to that level, because I think that narrative shifts, doesn't it? It's what is a young rider going to do? Oh, they're developing, they're coming good. But actually, once they firmly put themselves on the map and they do a big result, then our expectations as onlookers goes up and up and up. And then it changes the narrative to, well, why didn't you take that? And the kind of... trying to think of the right word here really, but there's just no allowance there for the fact that a rider is still very much learning and developing. And again, riders are the first to admit, I'm learning all the time. Even at the very, very pinnacle of the Grand Tours, riders are still learning.
Yossi Perna, this will be a disappointment to him. Possibly expected a little bit more of him. Just going back to Del Toro, runner-up in the Giro d'Italia after getting his strategy wrong, really. But Simon Yates taking a famous victory after such a margin between his first and second Grand Tour wins. But yeah, Giro d'Italia. And then guess what? He's got the rack full of disappointment, wins the Tour of Austria, then he wins the Classica Terras Elba, then he wins the Getxco, then he wins the Tour of Burgos, and then he wins the Industria Artigliato, he wins the Della Toscana, he wins the Primera Città Piccoli, and he wins the Trofeo Matteotti, which is the last race he did before coming here. Leave him alone. He's a genius.
And he's 21.
He's 21.
And he's 21.
Goodness me.
Gosh, I was not doing that when I was 21, racking up lots of race wins.
No, when I was 21, it involved... I don't know.
We'll leave that there as to what we were up to at the age of 21.
Probably dominoes I was good at, but that was about it. Here is Romeo Abad, and he takes himself off the ramp, and we are getting to the pointy end of what remains. We have it's Ivan Romeo. So they put him as Romeo Abad. It's Ivan Romeo, by the way, in case you were thinking, who the hell, or who on earth is Romeo Abad?
Who's Romeo?
It's Ivan Romeo. Sobrero, it caught me out, to be honest. I was thinking, hang on, that looks like Ivan Romeo. Better check. And of course it was. Sobrero has just crossed the line at 49.81. What about Ivan Romeo? Should we call him by his correct name? Catania is going to be coming off next. This is Jay Vine you're looking at. The man who is an aficionado, would you believe, on war history.
Really?
Yes, he spends his downtime. He had some significant injuries. Yeah, I spoke to him personally about it because my dear departed dad, he was very much involved in the Korean War, and Jay and I had a long old chat about it. But yeah, he finds it absolutely fascinating. I think the levels of commitment and sacrifice that people have made because of conflict throughout the past, and yeah, it's something that just spurs him on, I think. Tales of daring do. And as a result, he's got himself a Spitfire pilot's moustache. What about that? There we are. Meanwhile...
Is that why?
Yeah.
we'll go back to that. Here's Remco Evenepoel.
He is, with his aero haircut. He saw a picture of me and thought, that looks good.
That's what it is, yeah.
That's the one. He's going for it. And so is Luke Plapp. How's Luke doing on the splits?
Let's have a look. Confirmation of how that is looking for Luke Plapp. And of course, we just had sight of Jay Vine as well, didn't we?
We're actually waiting for his second time check. It's just about to come up. He was trailing by 21 seconds at the first split, but that's retrievable. But as his shoulders just start to waver here, and his target is a 32.06, and he's beyond that now, so every second from now until that clock stops at this second split, is potentially going to be against him. There we are.
Let's have a look.
Van Wilder is the next time to fall. No, Van Wilder was our leader at this point. And as it stands, he's going to be second quickest, I think, through here, Luke Plapp. It's hard to tell with the gearing, because you just don't know when you look at the cadence that they're setting, how quickly they are going. It might look laboured, but he's still marching along second quickest.
Yeah, it's impossible. I feel like it's impossible to tell today because every single rider, no matter what power they're unleashing, is looking like they're laboured and struggling because everybody's suffering. Plapp himself said this is, it's going to be brutal today, and there is no respite, of course, on this TT course. It's one that's 40.6 kilometres in entirety, 681 metres of elevation gain, a very big slog at the end of cobbles, and then more ascending. So I don't think anybody is in the typical TT floaty style looking unlaboured, because of course there's so much to contend with.
Here's our young genius. I hope for his sake that there is another opportunity that presents itself for him to win a Grand Tour, because the chance came early, and you never know when you miss a big one, when the next one will be along for you to have a nibble at, because you can have signed up to help others. But this young Mexican is just phenomenal, and proving again that the world of cycling has stars peppered throughout this planet.
Yeah, and I see your point completely, because I can only imagine what it's like to think, well, what if I don't have the opportunity to ride for myself as the priority? What if what if my one opportunity that was the biggest of my career presented itself and I didn't capitalise on it fully? But he's 21, and I think he's got such a long road ahead of him as well, that, everybody can see what he can do, and that's absolutely amazing. And what he can do, it'll be very interesting to see how today plays out as well. Of course, he's been a name way up there when anyone has been talking about contenders for today.
Where's Michael Leonard? I'm waiting for him to finish. I don't think he's come through yet, unless he really did go pop. No, I think we're going to be waiting to see him, so I'm looking forward to that. Next start will be Walter Vargas, then Jay Vine, RY'AMAGARE, Stefan Kung, Tadej Pogačar and Remco Evenepoel. The start house and its drummers will indeed fall silent fairly soon. Here's Seixas, and this is basically showing us what Ilan Van Wilder's got, because Seixas is missing something here.
Yeah, and we're just starting to see those comparisons, aren't we, as we get more and more information from these intermediate time checks. And it's been so hard to read it, and we have had so many question marks as to who was really going to be able to capitalise on this nature of course. And I think even the riders came in the last few days saying, we do not know the effects of conditions when we actually arrive there, when we acclimatise. We don't also know what every rider has had in the way of preparation, because some people, as we know, have been very visible in the very recent Grand Tour here, but other riders have been somewhat more hidden in their preparations. And I've loved the fighting talk between Remco and Tadej of like, I'm ready, well, I'm ready. And we know Pogačar wouldn't be here today if he didn't think he could win this, but I still think it's going to be a task, because Remco has not only got such an all-round ability of skills in this specific discipline and on a course like today, but psychologically he deals well with pressure. He wants to make history. He wants the rainbow bands again today.
I want a great fight.
Here's the other man.
It'd be wonderful to see Tadej Pogačar dealing with Remco Evenepoel and vice versa. And they're going to do it as a pure measure, because they go off one after the other.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be fascinating to see the run through the course. The head-to-heads are going to be very easy to assemble. So Tadej Pogačar setting off after Stefan Kung and before Remco Evenepoel. Meanwhile, Mr. Munten has climbed a mountain. And there is Florian Vermeersch's time. He's still got another pickup to do. It's going to be very tight, this. Here we are. Count him in like a rocket launch. I don't think he's quite going to get there. But that is a very fine effort, I've got to say, until he gets the line. He's very close indeed. Oh my goodness. 2 seconds. And he's going to look at that and think all night, how could I have found those 2 seconds? Jay Vine comes off the ramp, carrying his fighter pilot's moustache out of the arena and into battle.
I've been admiring the moustache and the commitment to the style, but I didn't know the backstory to it. So thank you once again, Carlton, for filling me in on that. But really excited to see Jay Vine today.
Come on, Michael. Let's get this job done. Here he is. Well, he's going to bring this up the mountain. He's going to be in the lead, but for how long? The tongue's hanging out like that invisible ice cream up in front of him. And now the big prize is at the line. It's a hot seat for now. And there it is, just being kept warm by Florian Vermeersch. But I think he knows as he unpacks his...
Prepping.
Yeah, he's got a little carton of orange juice down there. He's going to go and enjoy it in a minute. Meanwhile, here comes Michael Leonard, and he's going to take the lead. He's got another little rise to deal with, so it'll be closer to a minute of advantage by the end, but he has had a superb second part of this race. In fact, he's been pretty tidy throughout the entire run. Chapeau, my friend. That is brilliant. He's our new leader by 1:10.
Goodness me, what a margin there. And you just got a sight, didn't you? We got a close-up on how laboured that was on that gradient. There's not been any poker faces today on this final kilometre, has there? You can just see the tongues out, the gritted teeth of each and every rider just getting it all out on the course here today. Talking of which, here's Del Toro.
It is, yeah. At the convention centre, there it is. New benchmark. It's by Michael Leonard. Yeah, it was Suzanne was the song that I was trying to remember. There we go.
The important part of why we're all here today.
Exactly that. Del Toro, the bull. Well, let's see what he can do. He's running at the moment and doing a fantastic job. He's very active on the bike. He's a bit like one of those little pushy toys you get when you're little. His head seems to come in and out of his shoulders when he's pedaling. It's just his style. Have you never noticed that?
Well, he's 21. He's
do what he likes.
He could do anything at this point.
Right now, he's leading at the split by 9 seconds. Fantastic.
Oh my goodness! Oh, it's all happening. It is all happening. Back to the start.
Bruno Amarai. He's off. He's underway. How do these guys do it? I don't know. I fear for their wrists.
The endurance effort, I must say, from the drumming team has been second to none. They've kept up at every intermediate time split.
They were having lunch at the beginning of the men's race, and
I know they
missed their own man.
They missed a couple of minutes there, but they're back in full force, and now we are getting to the very hot end of the action.
We are. So Amarai is gone. There's Stefan Kung next, then Tele Pogacar, then Remco Evenepoel. So within the next 7 minutes, they're all going to be on course and active.
Ooh, everybody will be out.
Get yourself ready. It's going to be big news. These are deep section wheels, aren't they?
Yeah, I love looking at the display of tech, and of course it's not going to be the same for everybody. But we've also nodded to the fact that it's, of course, not just having an incredible technical setup on your bike and the best equipment, but some riders more than others have had time in their season or have placed priority in their season on actually drilling their position in that setup, because of course you don't just get into an aggressive time trial position overnight and go, right, this is how I'm going to ride at the Worlds. It takes a lot, and I think that's evolved so much as well. Each season we see something new in the way of aero gains, in the way of measuring what you can do. And I think the interesting point today as well is it's not straightforward. It's not just a case of sitting in TT position all day, because you quite simply can't. And then it's looking, as we go up the start list and more into our favourite contenders, who's keeping position longer, who's able to keep in that tuck and keep their head down. And aero testing, we know, is so important for riders that want to now win at this level. There's no stone unturned in that area now.
Back to Stefan Kung. Well, the two favourites are still to come, but Stefan Kung is somebody who can upset, because occasionally. He's an all-terrain vehicle. More often than not, he's having to work for others. But right now, the Swiss is hoping that he can bring yet more joy to Switzerland. There's a clue there for you. Meanwhile, this man
I've done so well.
he's getting off and underway. Fantastic. Now, he's one of the, I guess, heavier of the riders who are out here. Don't take too much away from that. Rain Taramay comes in. Clock didn't stop against him, but was about a minute and a half. Don't worry too much about that. Meanwhile, back out on course, and Mexico's Del Toro is still there. Watch his constant adjustments here, because I've been noting that within the space of a minute, he's getting 4 or 5 readjustments on the saddle. I think it's a marker of the level of commitment that he's engaged with, to be honest. This does not look like the biggest drive to this split that we are looking at right now. It'd be handy to have a clock, to be honest. You know, it is the race of truth against the clock.
It is why we're all here.
Yes, exactly. Time.
Clock, significant.
Time. It's an important thing. Meanwhile, back to Del Toro. Just a quick mention of Stefan Kung. I was just saying about how he is quite a powerful rider. By that, I mean his frame, his own bodily frame, his genus is quite thick set, but because of that, he generates a lot of power, and he's not bad at indeed some of the faster sections here, of which we have plenty, as you can see right now from Del Toro. If you can impose yourself here, that's time gained, and maybe just a bit of slip room when it comes to the peaks.
Well, it will be exactly that, and I think that is why this Worlds course has fascinated us so much today. And actually, again, not giving it all away, but in the women's race there were some surprises, weren't there?
Yeah.
Of riders we expected to come in as out and out favourites and to possibly capitalise more on the course than they were able to do. So that in turn I think means that you equally can't write off someone saying, well, there's this amount of elevation gain, because actually, as you say, the power that riders have been able to maintain and really gather and just push everything out of on some of these descents, like that has been possible as well. So I think, of course, we've just got such a range of riders out there today.
Cool. Look at this. Van Wilder is not only going to take control, he's smashed the clock. That is amazing.
Wow.
Well, we get a pace on that. We didn't see much of it, but Van Wilder's in charge. And the reason we're hooking back is Tadej Pogačar is off the ramp. He missed the Vuelta. He has been getting himself ready for this. They know a champion. We know one as well. And he has set off absolutely dialed in. Watch these first few corners. Just raises the inside pedal here, but watch him get the power on immediately after the corner. He'll do exactly the same here. Flick-flacking round every single one of the chicanes, straight onto the skis. He'll be back off those in a moment, and here he is. But you know what? 3 seconds on the skis is better than no time on them at all. So he's out of this corner again. He's powering into position, out of the saddle. He'll be back down there. Aero magnificent, fully dialed in. He's underway.
He's underway. He's dialed. That is the word right there, Carlton. Look at that start. Wow. He effortlessly throws his bike around the course with no problem, no concern. He's got this, and he is a joy to watch because of it. We've talked about the fact that we know he's put in specific preparations for today. He is a rider that's not going to leave anything to chance. He's not, oh, I'll turn up to the TT and see how it goes. He's going to have everything on the line today, and he wants to beat Evenepoel. They have both made no secret about how big this rivalry is.
And Van Wilder is doing a brilliant job, has done a brilliant job. A 52.22 for this course is absolutely outstanding. He has bettered Michael Shea Leonard by 1:17 at the finish. That huge. Is massive. Keeping cool. And if you're thinking, well, how on earth did he manage to get through that? Well, you're actually looking at the efforts involved right there. Evenepoel is still to come. We'll see how much information is sent back down the course to Evenepoel. Meanwhile, Tadej Pogačar is already eating into this course. You're going to have to essentially do a sprint for the entire distance today if you want to beat this man. Tadej Pogačar is an all-terrain vehicle, we remind you. He climbs brilliantly. He time trials exceptionally. He can even get involved in a sprint or two. Well, he looked at the course and thought, I'm inspired to do this. Took his time off La Vuelta to be time trial world champion. Remco Evenepoel knows this. He has been, of course, champion for the last 2 years and wants to make it a hat-trick. It's now.
Talking of a hat trick, Carlton, I've alluded to the fact we're going to see some spectacular kit and tech come out to play in these final few riders. And look at his helmet. It's absolutely spectacular and, of course, well earned. Why wouldn't you? But it's interesting already just to see the different techniques at the start here.
Well, he's head down sprinting. And indeed, not really getting up. If you notice, when he does get on the drops, he still maintains an aero position. This is top time trialing you're looking at right now. Potentially a hat-trick of victories for him. Stays out of the saddle quite a bit longer. Gets onto the skis right now. That helmet, by the way, you may have noticed what looked like a few blemishes to it as well. It's because it's real gold leaf that they have put onto the helmet and then covered it with a very light coating. So essentially, he is carrying the Olympic champion's lid with pride to bring him luck into this one.
And it's happy birthday to Tadej Pogačar.
Do you know what? There's a cake somewhere with a candle in it for him.
He wants the cake today. He
wants it, and he wants to eat it as well.
He always does, and actually he does. He doesn't just want to have his cake and eat it, he absolutely does.
Today might be that day. Here's Garcia Piana. Now, this is a big disappointment to me. I was hoping that this might be a flash of genius, but unfortunately it's in the pan.
Garcia, 24 years old, 3 years ago.
And seeing that red time split there, it's just coming through. 100 metres to go.
Well, he's raised his level when it comes to time trialling over the last couple of races. 6th place in Romandy was very, very impressive. I was there. He looked fantastic. Disappointed me because I am as a top 5 finisher, but there you go, bless him. I've been looking forward to seeing him go today. But this time, I'm afraid, is not going to set any bonfires on underneath the timings. He is already in a virtual podium, which shows you just how classy the time has been so far. You know, Ilan van Wilde, I don't know what messages he will have sent back to Remco Evenepoel. Remco Evenepoel is not a man who's given to taking on too much information. He generally tends to do things himself in his own way. So let's just wait and see. But yeah, Garcia Piana still on the podium at the moment, but it shows you the gulf as it stands between those who finished and those who are still to come potentially.
Yeah, it's been really interesting indeed, hasn't it? It's told us a lot of the things that we wanted to know earlier on today. But yeah, talking there about Remco Evenepoel and the way he approaches things, and I think that's what makes him such a special rider, isn't it? That he is riding his own race to an extent. He's got to have that conviction and belief in abilities and what he needs to do to secure it. And of course, you have so much team support around you. You cannot do this you can't do these things on your own in this sport, but you've got to have your own belief at the core of that. And that's what he has in spades.
Sombrero. Well, let's see. Sounds like a sun hat. The clouds, I'm afraid, have wafted in. Thankfully, it's remained dry, despite the fact it has a look of dampness about the road surface. It may well be afternoon dew that we are starting to experience. Sombrero still 3rd quickest. Can you believe it? There's a lot of tight times.
Yeah, they certainly are. Become tighter. And I was talking about the fact that, and here we go, just some confirmation there.
Sombrero, 3rd quickest behind Michael Shea Leonard and Ilan van Wilde. Still so impressed with Michael Leonard. That was a great ride, but Van Wilde was just in a different level. A 52.22. Just to put it in perspective, the only rider who's broken 46 kilometres an hour, considering the climbing that we've done. Van Wilde, brilliant. His average pace through the entire run at 46.5. The nearest was Michael Leonard at 45.4 at the finish. So a whole kilometre per hour. So extrapolate that. It's I mean, if you're doing 46.5, what's our course length here? We finished nearly a kilometre ahead of everybody else.
It's pretty staggering, isn't it, when you put it like that? Yeah.
Here we go, Luke Plapp. Now then, he's in the hoarded section here. What can he deliver?
Oh, just look at the pain etched on the face of Luke Plapp. Everything now, and we know how brutal this final run into the line is.
Well, he's gone into this little dish, I'm afraid. No lapping kittens at the edge of it. He is, I'm afraid, going to be second place. Yes, 27 seconds is the margin. I don't know where those kittens came from, but anyway, having kittens, I imagine all Luke Plapp fans. Didn't quite get there, but what a great effort it was by the great man. 27 seconds down on the more than impressive Ilan van Wilder, and only the second rider to bust 46 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, it was a really impressive, solid ride from Plapp, wasn't it? And I think it was really hard to read his body language and the way he was executing that on the course. It's been really hard, hasn't it, to read until we've confirmation of the time checks. It's been really hard to see because everybody is suffering out there, and we know that he said that earlier on, is that there's no respite in terms of how it's being paced and recovery opportunities. That's another thing, isn't it? Because we know someone like Remco can just do that ultimate pacing effort to know that you're digging deep, but you can't go beyond that red, especially at the meters of elevation that these riders are operating at today. Recovery is everything, and when there isn't an opportunity to just use a descent to recover, because we know they're going to be pressing everything they can out, the power output on those sort of lengthy, wide, fast descents, when you've got to make the split-second gains that Remco is going to be looking for today, because of course he wants it, but he wants it more than ever because he's going to write in history books. He wants to do it 3 times. But yeah, there's no resting, and you could see with the ride of Luke Plapp and just what that took out of him on that finish line.
Remco Evenepoel is catching the motorbike. That's a security bike just to make sure the road is clear ahead of him. And right now, this is an absolute pleasure to watch. I haven't seen too much of Tadej Pogačar so far. He set off in advance of course, Remco Evenepoel, and the first splits are indeed, we're desperate. There's an aero bottle, all the tech at our disposal, and Arensman comes in, and another good time.
Yeah, we're just watching the clock here for Arensman coming in for the Netherlands. And you can just hear the chanting by the road. You got the fan club there. But it's been spectacular all day, just the sense of atmosphere here. The first time we've seen the Worlds come to Africa, here in Rwanda, in Kigali. And, oh gosh, what action we are seeing play out before our eyes now. Here's Stefan Kung.
It is Stefan Kung. By the way, at the first timing point, Del Toro has gone through quickest. He is 2 seconds to the good on Jay Vine. Bruno Amarai has just speared through, only 7 seconds down, and they're coming thick and fast, the big times. Van Wilder and Leknesson separated by indeed 6 seconds, waiting for Arensman to come through that second checkpoint. He was 7th quickest, despite the fans, at 18 seconds. And in fact, he's improved his position, if not the time. He's a 4th at the second checkpoint. Here's Seixas just cresting the first of a series of little rises before he actually gets to the line here. And already, for a rider like Seixas to be this far down is a real description of what Ilan van Wilder has actually produced here.
Yeah, it's just further evidence of how staggering that ride at that time set by Van Wilder was for Belgium. And as you can see here, that's the benchmark, that's the comparison. 1:38.07 there down to Seixas.
Well, he's in 5th place. 38.07, so he is about 15 seconds down on Sobrero in 4th place. Michael Leonard still in a virtual podium at the moment for Canada after a great ride. He won't be medaling, I'm afraid, today. But Luke Plapp would have hopes. Ilan van Wilder might have some delivery. Let's see. And here's Del Toro coming to the second intermediate. Clock still green on him. And don't forget that when he went through the first split, he has set our benchmark. Now, he's drifted a little bit into the clutches of Jay Van Wilder at this point. We're waiting for Jay Vine to come through here. But let's see. Oh, he's tying up a bit.
Yeah.
He went deep early.
He did, and it's yeah, I'm just like waiting bated breath to see that stop there. But yeah, but I still don't. It's not over till it's over, and I still think that is a characteristic of today, that we're not expecting it to be really obvious early on how much somebody can set that sort of time and hold it, because of course some people will have more ability to fare the weather that we're going to see later on with the cobbles, with the ascents, with everything thrown at the riders. But very interesting to see the change in time gap there for Del Toro. Jay Vine, you just mentioned him, because we haven't had sights on Jay Vine very much so far, have we? Coming through the first timing point, 2 seconds down on Del Toro.
Yeah, amazing. In fact, I don't think it appears we don't have a camera on Jay Vine, but we'll see him finished, that's for sure. And there's so much talent, to be honest, spread across the road. This course, it's kind of difficult to keep in touch with absolutely everybody. And here's Tadej Pogačar. This has been a rarity too. He's still got 30.6 kilometres of the race, the course today to deal with. He's 13.5 minutes into his run, and he always looks so comfortable. That's the danger of this man, isn't it?
It is. He always looks so comfortable. And I think, and this is the direct comparison you were saying that we were going to get treated to, with these being our penultimate and our ultimate rider out on the course, of course. But yeah, what really strikes me with Tadej Pogačar is it's not just his effortless style and look on the bike, is it? It's his whole demeanour, the way he just is so relaxed, so often with the press. Yeah, he's just such a solid individual, isn't he? He's just really sorted and just ever calm, seemingly. But what is so staggering, and I know it's something we talk about so often, but we can't not, is his all-round ability to just continue to shock and delight cycling fans. Every time you think, today perhaps is the one time it's not suited to Pogačar. Oh no, he's turned it around, and guess what? It is, and he makes it so. And here we go. This is a really pivotal point coming up for Pogačar. But he is just a joy to watch because of it, because you can never write him off.
Check that out. Less than a second down on Del Toro, who, let's face it, put everything on the line in the first, indeed, section of this course. And then faded when it came to the second checkpoint. So he took an advantage over Jay Vine, for example, of 2 seconds at that split and turned it into a 16-second deficit, I'm afraid. So let's wait and see. Jay Vine will be next one through, actually, our next chiming point. We're having a look at him. But Remco Evenepoel, it's basically mano a mano for this one at the end between Pogačar and Evenepoel, possibly with Ilan van Wilder entering the fray. We'll see if Del Toro manages to pick it up. We'll see what Jay Vine does as well when we get our next checkpoint. I think Jay Vine might surprise us today because he's in quite a precocious mood. He's bounced back from injury and he basically went to the barbecue table at UAE and ate all the sausages. That was the welter. He helped himself to what he fancied, quite frankly, and good luck to him. It was amazing.
Jay Vine is amazing. I had the pleasure of interviewing him during the process of the Zwift Academy, and I found him so endearing from the off. He's another character in this sport that came in through a really interesting route, and then we knew from that the power he had. But, Evenepoel coming up here.
Oh my life.
Just pause that one for a moment.
You want a trim? Check that out. Now then, first intermediate. And we remind you that Tadej Pogačar has been through here. So, This is fascinating because Evenepoel leads Pogačar at the first checkpoint by 45 seconds. No disrespect to Del Toro, but Remco Evenepoel is fully dialed in. Too early? Don't know. What can Pogačar do when we get to the climbs? A lot. Can he make up 45 seconds? That is huge.
This is this is the fight that we have been so eagerly anticipating, isn't it? And there's still so many questions. It's certainly not over yet. But what a time already from Remco Evenepoel. We knew we had the confidence coming in.
Leknesund is coming home. The clock is red against him, so Ilan van Wilder still stands there. What is the problem with Tadej Pogačar? Is there a problem at all? Well, he's got a problem, and that's 45 seconds sized kind of problem.
I think his problem is Remco Evenepoel.
Yes, most definitely. Who is absolutely dialed in and determined. And at the moment is absolutely going for it. But whether he'll burn down is anybody's guess. On paper, Remco Evenepoel looks like the winner in waiting. But the thing about paper is it's highly flammable. Let's wait and see what plans are afoot a little bit later on.
Well, we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see, ultimately. We don't have a choice. But this is getting very exciting indeed.
Ilan van Wilder, Leknesund only 21 seconds down. That was very close at hand at the finish. Sorry, we're still in shock regarding Remco Evenepoel's gap on Tadej Pogačar. And so it almost distracted us. But congratulations, Leknesund. That was brilliant. Another rider. There's only 3 of them at 46 kilometres per hour and more for the run. Let me just tell you that Remco Evenepoel at the moment is holding at the first time check 45.2 average. The fastest part of the course comes into the 3rd checkpoint. It involves a big downhill run which you can really pile into, and here's your head-to-head, and it's extending. Remco Evenepoel has a margin of 51 seconds. That's not 0.51 of a second. That is nearly a minute over Tadej Pogačar. What is going on? Remco Evenepoel is burning it down.
Do you know what? Remco Evenepoel has so openly said to every member of the press this week how ready he is to take on this battle. He has been not quietly confident, but so overtly ready, waiting, confident, just wanting to take on this race today and win it and secure the bands. And we knew that Tadej Pogačar wanted to upset that, and you can never ever write off Pogačar. We've just extensively said all the reasons above for that, because he has in so many scenarios not come in as the likely favourite, but has just turned the tables. But I think today Remco just knew that he hadn't just had a brilliant preparation coming into it, but this is where he ultimately shines. But even just watching the two of them come off the ramp and how they approached the start of this race was so contrasting and so different. But what they have in common is that ultimate confidence of the way that they can throw the bike around with just utter conviction that they know exactly what they're doing on every inch of a course like this. And it's such a delight to watch. What a brilliant battle. And we had eyes on Jay Vine momentarily a moment ago. I was talking about him before we saw the time of Remco come in at the intermediate, and yeah, what a talking point that has proven to be. But I was talking about Jay Vine, and then we got a sight of his face actually, and he looked very calm and concentrated.
Angisha is coming in for Rwanda, and listen to the roar. Let's just let the crowd welcome him home, shall we? How nice is that? He may be 6 minutes down, but he's absolutely up there in popularity here, and thanks to him and indeed the good people of Kigali, they have produced a fabulous atmosphere here, haven't they?
And this is what is really important to know. Not only how amazing this is for Rwanda, how amazing the crowds have been and the reaction to that, but there are so many riders fielding today, and this is not about a podium position for them. It's not about a top 10 position. That's not what they came in with expectations for today. It's gaining experience at this world level, going up against the likes of Pogačar and Evenepoel and Jay Vine, and what that is going to do not only for individual riders, but it transcends that. It inspires more people in this part of the world to ride, to have positivity, to inspire generations, and it's so important.
There's your first intermediate. He's coming up to the second. Now, it would be great if he starts to split and get in amongst that scrap for time here, because at the moment Van Wilde at the second checkpoint still stands loud and proud after the impressive Leknesund at the second split got to within 6 seconds of him. Del Toro, third quickest at that point. Here comes Evenepoel. Oh, little shimmy. For goodness sake, Remco, hold it together. He's pushing absolutely to the very limit. If he needed that extra bit of road just between the feet of the barriers, he's going to take it.
But this is what we see, isn't it?
Me.
At this... We need to calm down. Yeah. No, this is what we see, though, when it gets this tight, when we get to this level, at this point in the action. It's never over, and we are seeing these riders push to the absolute limit. We've seen it with the likes of Jay Vine just pushing everything to test what they can, to get everything out of themselves and the bike. But gosh, we've got heart in our mouths.
Certainly have. What's Tadej Pogačar got at the moment? Because he needs an awful lot in the remainder of this course. I mean, getting time back on riders, you think, well, 45 seconds, that's doable over a big course. But on Remco Evenepoel, that sounds like a job already completed by the Belgian. Let's see, here's Jay Vine at the moment, digging very, very deep. Ian Van Wilde's time, he's coming into the timing barriers right now. I think this is going to be a big trim, and not just of his moustache. This is going to be something amazing. Let's see, Jay Vine is going to get there. What's the margin? What is he going to be in green here, essentially? Clock is going to stop any moment now. 26 seconds up, that's fabulous.
Oh my goodness. Well, we were just talking about this man, weren't we? Not just about his moustache. But Jay Vine is, I was going to kind of go into his journey through this sport, and the fact that, yeah, he's been a rider that I've closely interviewed from the days of Zwift Academy. So we knew that he had power. We knew that he was completely unrivaled when you just ultimately tested what his output was. But then the way he's evolved through the sport, but not only that, he's not just had like one injury setback. The way he has regathered himself and come back from the hugest adversity. And also, I think another thing to consider today is not everybody's had the same run into this. Not everybody's had the same preparation. Some people have had completely unknown form. Other riders like Jay Vine have had back-to-back performances, and we know he's got form, but this is looking really handy today.
Amirai, you know, part of the great ignored here, and there's no justification for it really, because this is a super solid run by the Frenchman. 52 seconds down, and you're thinking, well, 52 seconds down, well, 45 seconds down was Tadej Pogačar himself. So if you do the difference between Amirai and Pogačar, it's only 7 seconds. So if it wasn't for Remco Evenepoel, we'd be talking about Amirai like the stars were being realigned. Amazing. Jay Vine at the moment is also very much in that vanguard.
Yes, and I think that is something else to make sure that we qualify, is that when you do have a rider making some of those splits look like riders are quite far down, we've got to look at what ride these these guys are actually putting in, and we've had some really impressive rides that would have been well up there if it wasn't for the upset of the likes of Remco Evenepoel. But here we are back with Tadej Pogačar, just over 20 kilometres for the birthday boy.
I don't know, maybe it was that cupcake this morning. I've no idea. But
do you think that was his breakfast?
Yeah, possibly, with a candle in it.
He could still win if his nutrition was a cupcake.
Bless him. Let's see. Just under 20 kilometres to go. He looks calm, but one suggests that maybe this needs a sense of urgency, and we're seeing that dripping from Remco Evenepoel, aren't we? He looks all over the bike, Evenepoel. It's not as pretty as looking at Tadej Pogačar, but boy, is it effective.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? And I hope we get more split screen views just to compare the stances of our two top favourites today.
Here's Amagaere coming to the second split. Now, Jay Vine, don't forget, had the beating of Van Wilde, and I believe that Amagaere will also at this point. 26 seconds is the Amagaere time. Jay Vine, indeed, that was his deficit down, so possibly not quite going to be there. But we were lauding Ilan Van Wilde, and I think we need to start lauding the likes of Bruno Amagaere, who's on a very exceptional run here. But as the clock works against him here, maybe news has got through as to where he stands, 40 seconds down. So that would still be better than Del Toro, who led at the first split, save for Evenepoel.
Yeah, we're keeping a good eye, aren't we, on all these splits and what that means for the wider race, because, yeah, of course, we have 3 podium positions up for grabs, and I mentioned earlier that some riders, a top 10, of course, is a major target in this race as well. So keeping an eye on the state of play of all these contenders and just keeping up with those intermediate time checks at the moment. But here he is, the man you've just mentioned.
Del Toro, he's going to finish the task. He's got to get up over the gnarly bit. He's got 2.2 kilometres to go, and the steepest part of this climb is about to come in the next 100 metres or so. You'll see that with the stripping out of the pace down to 17 kilometres an hour. This is one of the quickest through this part of the course I've seen.
Let's see what Del Toro stops the clock at. 2.1k to go, and in any other scenario we might be saying almost there, but we know how difficult this final is of this time trial here for the elite men, and 2 kilometres can seem like a mightily long way, not only for us sat here comfortably. These riders are fighting to just limit any loss at this point in the race, with just 2k remaining for Del Toro.
He's coping with this extremely well. I think he's the quickest through here that we've seen, actually.
Yeah, and again, some riders just have a completely different style on the bike. We can't always read it, but keeping smooth across this section has been a big order for some of these riders. But yeah, he's looking to be flying over this as best possible, but this is just a brutal finish to the day. Every rider who's finished has said it earlier on this morning from the women's race, but just when you think it's over, it's not, and this is impressive.
Del Toro, the bull, fabulous rider, great personality as well, was extraordinarily humble when the Giro d'Italia slipped through his fingers. Here's Heidemann coming to the line for Germany, bringing great cheer to them, but I'm afraid that 2 minutes and 16 still accounting for a top 10. Can you believe it? That just shows you the quality of riders who have been through. Meanwhile, Del Toro is about to bring this to a close. Timo Ahrensman also has indeed, has he drawn to a close, Ahrensman? Yes, 5th for the time being. Del Toro is on this final drag. Meanwhile, Swiss time is running out. And here is Mr. Kung. And I'm afraid it's not going to be. He's had such a busy season. I'm not surprised. He's been in the service of so many.
Yeah, and we've talked about that element, haven't we, of not only preparations coming in, but how your season's looked. And we've got riders here that have done so much tireless work for the rest of their trade teammates all season. And so, yeah, you've got to measure that today.
Here is Ahrensman at the finish line. Through his, at the 3rd checkpoint, he was 5th. What's he going to deliver to us at the line is the big question. If he wants to be in the top 5, he needs to come in after 1 minute and 17. He's going to easily be within that. It's good enough for 4th place for Timo Ahrensman, just out of the medals as it stands, but a solid performance by the Dutch rider.
Yeah, really solid there, and we've talked about the level that we've got here contending today, and that is no shabby effort at all. Also not too shabby, Jay Vine.
Oh.
And yeah, I was saying before, the fact that he's had to come back from so much difficulty, and again is a rider that can transform himself on one day for working for the team, the next day finishing it off himself, then coming in evidently in this kind of form and this focus today. today. But also talking of that focus, when we get a shot of his face, he's just so under control. He's a brilliant rider. He
is. Well, let's see how he delivers, shall we? Because for the time being, Jay Vine has been the daddy. Well, he was at the second checkpoint. Meanwhile, Tadej Pogačar, let's see, there's Jay Vine. He's red against Vine, which tells you how good Vine has been through here. Van Wilder was at 26 seconds. Tadej Pogačar is going to be down in around about that margin, I'm afraid. And it doesn't look like this is Tadej Pogačar's day at all. 25.76, second quickest. But second quickest to Jay Vine, and who else is out there on the road? That's the question. Here's Del Toro. It's not going to be the lead, I'm afraid, for him, but I think this is going to be a provisional podium spot potentially for him. Although I'm saying that, he's still got a little bit to deliver. Let's have a look. Second place so far. 4.79 seconds down. This is huge. This is a very, very, very big moment. And I believe that this is one hand upon a rainbow jersey and a hand on a hat trick. Phenomenal. Twice, of course, our world champion time trialist and Remco Evenepoel over Jay Vine. Tadej Pogačar's already been through. Vine was faster than him. Remco Evenepoel is faster than everybody. Let it ring out. Evenepoel is absolutely on a march here. This is wonderful.
Remco Evenepoel, as expected, he's not only on fire, but he's exceeding every expectation. We had a certain level of confidence that he was our out-and-out favourite today, but Tadej Pogačar wanted to vocally upset that. We knew that, but look at the ride that Evenepoel is putting in today. As you say, he's done this twice. This would be the third time. He's well aware of what's at stake, but he's got that nous, that ability to just keep that pressure just teetering on his shoulders, and look at the way he's going.
Unbelievable. First time check, he was against Tadej Pogačar, 45 seconds up. He has magnified that. What he is fashioning out of iron here is unbelievable. He is now 1 minute and 42 up on Tadej Pogačar. Jay Vine might be heading for the hot seat momentarily, and indeed the let's wait and see. Certainly a medal. Jay Vine's looking like a silver medalist at the moment. No disrespect intended at all, because Remco Evenepoel is in a zone of his own as it stands, and Remco has pressed go, and he is in nobody's shadow. He is setting the benchmark.
He's not just setting the benchmark, is he? And let's just have a look at this split screen here with Evenepoel versus Pogačar. And oh my gosh, that's not just in a green situation, is it? Look at the time difference there. And I think that Evenepoel's just got everything on his side today, hasn't he?
The course is absolutely for him. Slightly rolling, doesn't mind a bit of a test, and I think more than anything else, what spurs Evenepoel on sometimes is anger. I don't know who's been poking the bear at the moment, but you know he is in tear-down mode as it stands, and it's the timing sheets that are in the bin as far as Evenepoel is concerned. He is just exponentially quicker than anybody. Do you know what his average pace was? Jay Vine going through the third checkpoint was 49.5, which is way ahead of anyone. The next checkpoint comes up very, very quickly, between 2 and 3. Target time for Evenepoel is a 38.2 at the third checkpoint. I think he's going to be over 50 kilometers per hour through the third checkpoint, which is otherworldly.
I think that sums it up, doesn't it? And we were talking about riders being superheroes, superhuman, and appearing to be that way. But Evenepoel is confirming that he is on a superhuman ride today. He's absolutely incredible to watch. And I think the way you saw both Remco and Tadej throw the bike out of the start gate today was like, I mean business. But Remco, as I say, just every element not only suits him today, but mentally, he's just putting in the ride of his life. He is just so ready to deliver today, and delivering he is.
Jay Vine owns the third checkpoint. He's now going to head home and bring in the big test. Well, I don't know who is indeed the gorilla here today. Well, it's not a silverback, it's a goldback, isn't it? Because Remco Evenepoel is carrying his lucky Olympic helmet round this course like a golden flash.
That's got to bring a little bit, not only luck, but confidence to your side. I mean, yeah, if you ever needed any extra. And just look at the pure display of dominance here from Remco Evenepoel. It's just a joy to watch him just absolutely smash every target of this race to utter perfection. It was interesting to see again the face of Jay Vine has just been completely unwavering, so we can't not mention the ride that he's putting in today, but no one so far is able to measure up to this man. Absolutely.
He's got so much time at the moment, he could probably nip into a fuel station, buy himself an ice cream, enjoy it and still win. He is phenomenal. Jay Vine, well, all he can do is his absolute best to finish the job. For Tadej Pogačar, I don't know whether there'll be any regret washes over him a little bit later on. Let's see what he's kept for the latter part of this course. But a deficit, I'm afraid, to Remco Evenepoel from Tadej Pogačar of 1 minute and 42 at the second checkpoint, which is essentially halfway through this this run, a little bit over, is, I don't think, retrievable. But yeah, let's just wait and see until the line. The line will give us the time.
It will give us the answer, but yes, it's certainly looking that way.
So, Ivan Romeo coming in on what would have been on any other day a fabulous, fabulous time, and he gets over the last rise here with the crowd welcoming him in. Now, there's going to be a big party tonight. We have the elite races, of course, next weekend, but honestly, what a way to open up these World Championships. It's been absolutely outstanding.
It's been spectacular. It's delivered in so many ways, and I think for a lot of people looking at the opening time trials, some people were a bit disappointed to see some absent names from the list. The likes of Filippo Ganna, for example, you've got some big TT contenders that we said, right, they're not lining up. They don't think this course suits them. But what we have witnessed, not only today but in the run-up to this event, is the impact it's having, the crowds, the inspiration factor, the nations and riders that are getting opportunities here to test their level against evidently these world's best that we're seeing in front of our eyes now. But it's been a spectacular occasion. Talking of spectacular occasion, Remco Evenepoel is just pure style and class. Look at this.
He's found another 7 seconds on Jay Vine. He was 1 minute and 17 ahead of Jay Vine at the second checkpoint, and he has just powered through here as well. He just can't help but extend himself. This is absolutely remarkable. Tadej Pogačar has gone through the third checkpoint, by the way, and I've got to tell you, he is not in a happy place. There it is. Remco Evenepoel is 1 minute and 24 ahead of Jay Vine, and he is now nearly 2 minutes over Tadej Pogačar at checkpoint 3. It's fading for Pogačar in this resolve, but it is shining so brightly on Remco Evenepoel. Here's Jay Vine. Now, Jay Vine, second, he was fourth on the first checkpoint, second on the second checkpoint, still second on the third, and now he has to bring it home. He will be targeting a silver medal. There is no shame in that at all. He is a fabulous rider. He is a great personality, and he seems to find depths that belie his personality. He is such a gentle character, but an absolute predator on the bike. And it's been a joy watching him all season, actually. Yeah,
it totally has. Yeah, especially this season. Yeah. The storytelling that has come. Oh, my goodness.
Who? That's the question. Bike change, waiting to see. My goodness, that did not look good. Let's wait and see. It was ahead of Jay Vine, so I'm imagining it's Catania. No, it's Vargas. This is Catania who's finishing. We will wait and see. What a thing. So we talked about technicals. It's happened on the cobbles. We thought that would possibly be the place. Just one sharp edge to a cobble. can actually cause all kinds of problems, and that will make us worry about those still to come. Here's Catania. Again, on any other day, we'd have been talking about him royally. Top 10 in the World Championships, potentially for him. 9th for now. Bike change. I always think that is so cruel late on. Let's see.
So cruel.
Well, this man, even if he had a bike change, it hasn't happened to Remco Evenepoel. He's got such a cushion, I think he could still bring it in. The car will, of course, be in attendance just in case. But as it stands, Remco Evenepoel is absolutely delivering something extraordinarily special. This is historic. It's going to be 3 times consecutively. That is amazing. Well, let's see. Tadej Pogačar is here. He's going to honour the day. He potentially could still get himself a medal, but I don't think it's going to be the colour he was looking for, if he medals at all.
Yeah, and this is the thing with Pogačar, which we've already highlighted all season really, is that he is a man that wants to win and can win and targets winning. And so, of course, he doesn't ever come into a race for anything other than the victory. But he's also philosophical, and I think that about him too.
There's Van Wilder's time, and Jay Vine is going to smash that to pieces. I've got to tell you that Alan Van Wilder might be on for a bronze medal because he is faster, his time at the 3rd checkpoint, than Tadej Pogačar. So think about that for a few moments. Tadej Pogačar, one of the joint favourites for today, has been beaten by Alan Van Wilder. It could be 2 Belgians on the podium. Let's see what Jay Vine does here. There is Van Wilder's time. He's going to take the lead momentarily, I believe, Jay Vine. What an amazing run by this man. Such a history to him. Such a gutsy rider. A real gentleman as well on the bike and off it. Fabulous performance by Jay Vine. Brings it in by a handsome trim.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. Jay Vine has brought this home to absolute perfection. That was something very, very special indeed. We'll get the average pace for you in a few moments' time. By the way, Remco Evenepoel at the fastest point of the course, at the 3rd time check, is averaging at that point through to get to that point 51.3 kilometers per hour, and he's going to catch Tadej Pogačar. He is powering through. That is huge, and this would be a massive statement. That's Tadej Pogačar, his 2.5 minute man. These are the 2 favourites, for goodness sake, and all of a sudden Remco Evenepoel is seeing his nemesis ahead of him, and this would be crushing if he comes through and overtakes Tadej Pogačar, and he could do it. It's 5.8 kilometres from home. This is absolutely remarkable. What a statement, and what a moment, not only in this day, but in cycling history, for 2 riders of such exponential importance. To be this imbalanced on the day is absolutely unfathomable.
We knew that Remco Evenepoel was arguably coming in as the out-and-out favourite, but we knew also that we had expectations for Tadej Pogačar to answer that. But now Evenepoel has the sight of Pogačar just up the road. This is absolutely insane action unfurling before our eyes.
Do you know what? He's taking a break. He's having a drink. He possibly doesn't even need this. He's thinking, do I want to come in and share the limelight at the line, or shall I just have that moment where he can probably even get off the bike, lift his bike up above his head, walk over the line, which we've seen him do before? I don't know. He's a showman. It may well be that something like that. Maybe he's letting Pogačar go so he can have his individual moment on the line. He doesn't want to share it with anybody. 4.3 kilometres from home. We'll see what Pogačar knows about the man who's chasing him down as it stands. Jay Vine's time, by the way, a 51 flat, 86 kilometres an hour. We are not messing about. This is brilliant. By the way, Jay Vine almost bust the 51 minutes marker. Nearest man to him, Ilan Van Wilder, 1 minute and 21. I believe Van Wilder is going to medal We are waiting, of course, for this to draw to a conclusion. There are other riders on the course, and as you can see, this is Bruno Amirail, and all credit to him as he enters underneath the Flamme Rouge. Do you think that Remco Evenepoel wants to finish on his own without anybody else in the photo frame?
Well, this is just unbelievable, Carlton. I don't think, of all of us saying coming into today it was unpredictable, I don't think that we anticipated this unfolding in this race. Oh my gosh. This is just exploding at this point in the action. And I really do want to just take a moment to say, though, how spectacular the ride of Jay Vine was, because we quickly cut away from Vine in his moments of crossing that line, but he was staggering as well today. Brilliant. But it's just the fact that Remco Evenepoel is on absolute fire, and the dominance he's putting in here, and then we just saw him sit back and take a drink.
Absolutely remarkable. Now watch Bruno Amirail here, because I think this would be enough. Potentially, maybe he's just going to be off a provisional podium here. I think that's going to be the case. So he should cross the line. Fourth quickest, I think, on the day, possibly fifth. Let's wait and see. But it's almost academic, and I feel sorry for the likes of Amirail and those who are still out on the course, because this has been just a wonderful day of racing. Luke Plapp's time is just about to be breached potentially, and in fact he's just outside of that, so it will be sixth place. Luke Plapp stays in fifth, and here we go. Well, there you go. He is indeed going to be that mountain gorilla. He is the silverback, he's the gold top. He is absolutely everything you want. They say the cream rises to the top and gold top is the richest of all. He's found his 2.5 minute man, and that man is Tadej Pogačar, for goodness sake, who drifts into his slipstream to try and indeed gnarl back at him. That's actually beyond the rules. He's going to have to go off towards one side. You're not allowed to draft in the slipstream of the person who's just passed you, but Evenepoel is just powering away. 2 bike lengths now. Tadej Pogačar is trying to stay with it. He wants to repass him, but you can't do this. You have to do it. If you are going to do it, you cannot do it in his slipstream. You cannot use the man who's overtaken you to take advantage, and Pogačar knows that, which is why the whistles are blowing from the commissaires to tell him to get out of the slipstream. But at the moment, slipping away and off to the horizon is Remco Evenepoel. This is absolutely remarkable. There's just under 2 kilometres to go, for goodness sake. We're on the toughest part of the climb, and Evenepoel has now, I think, just broken the heart, at least only today, of Tadej Pogačar, because it's suddenly 4 bike lengths. What will be the difference at the end here today? And where will Tadej Pogačar finish? He might even be out of the medals, for goodness sake. We shall wait and see. Evenepoel is absolutely on rails at the moment. It's a funicular which gets up climbs. Look at him. This is brilliant.
Remco Evenepoel is putting in the ride of his life. He's taken the rainbow bands 2 consecutive years. And now he didn't only want to come in today and make it a third, to make history, to dominate, but he's done it with such style, and we could not have written this, could we, Carlton? We did not expect him to suddenly have Pogačar in his sights. Not only that, to power past in this final cobble section. This is just utterly incredible what is unfurling ahead of us here.
What a performance by Remco Evenepoel. Took his time, didn't panic, had a toot on the old beard-on, and then took time actually to fold the cage to make it even more aero, and thought, right, this is my time. There's a climb coming up here. I am going to dominate. Tadej Pogačar is fighting back. He does not like the fact that he has been passed by his 2.5 minute man. It could be a sprint for the line, and Tadej Pogačar has every right to try and make the best time home he possibly can. Remco Evenepoel, maybe he's aware that Tadej Pogačar is reclosing the gap here. It's marginal, but I believe that Tadej Pogačar here is not going to get back at his man, but it shows the fight in his belly, and that you've got to appreciate as well. Suddenly Remco Evenepoel, though, gets the drive. He's on the flat stuff with another rise to come. Stefan Kung with 2.5 minutes deficit at this point. He's going to find himself potentially outside of the top 10, if only just inside of it potentially. Let's have a look. That's 8th for now, but I'm afraid it's going to be 10th by the look of him, because there's 2 riders still to come. And there is Remco Evenepoel, champion in waiting, trident of opportunities and delivery. Last 500 metres for him. 2 minutes he has up on Jay Vine at the moment, but significantly he's got 2.5 minutes and more on Tadej Pogačar. This is amazing. Pogačar's going to be struggling to finish in the top 10 if he fades here. Evenepoel with the last delivery. A few hammer blows still to be issued. Do you want to be the hammer or do you want to be the anvil? And today, Evenepoel is forging something absolutely magnificent. A fabulous trident of victories. 3 times consecutively a world time trial champion. He is historic in everything he's delivering today. He's coming up to this rise. Look at the fans here beating the hoardings. And he has beaten Evenepoel, everybody, including Tadej Pogačar. Can you believe it? Remco Evenepoel, 1, 2, 3, kabow! We salute you, sir. That was majestic. And this is Tadej Pogačar coming home, and look at the deficit here. He is good enough for 4th. No medal for Pogačar, and the whole world to Remco Evenepoel.
Remco Evenepoel made sure that that was his ultimate playground today. An acknowledgement, a shake of the hand there for Tadej Pogačar. But Remco, what he has just done is such a historical moment. You saw him come across the line there. 1, 2, 3, salute. He pushed everything in that final segment to the line. I just can't quite believe what we've seen today.
The man has a military-style haircut, and today it was a forensic delivery by somebody who was absolutely determined to put the world in the crosshairs and make sure that he owned it. This was something so very special. Remember it. Remember what he has done. Remember who he has beaten. And more than that, the manner to which he delivered it. It was absolutely supreme. Well, it's going to take him a while to recover, and probably us as well.
I was just thinking that. Oh, I mean, we wanted an exciting race, but we could not have written that, could we? We did not expect that level of action right to the line there. But what I also love, though, about Tadej Pogačar, oh, I need to calm down, Pogačar, is the fact that straight away an acknowledgement to Remco on just what a ride that was today. Ever the gentleman.
Remco Evenepoel is a world time trial champion by a margin of 1 minute and 14 over the amazing Jay Vine. And Ilan Van Milde makes it 2 Belgians on the medals podium here in Kigali. Tadej Pogačar does not medal. Indeed, on a course that he said suited him absolutely down to the ground. Top 5 includes Ivan Del Toro. We also have, of course, Leknesund, Plapp, Amirai, Arensman and Kung, who all played their part in what was an amazing day. My goodness, every single one of them deserves our praise and thanks. And let the party begin.
What a moment for Remco Evenepoel. And it was fascinating, wasn't it, those last few kilometres? And even just seeing, knowing that he'd come past Pogačar, job done, but the focus that he had right until he crossed that line was just something to behold.
What a day. It's going to take a while to actually quantify what indeed this means.
What just happened there? We knew he was confident. He put it out there. But that's another interesting thing, is a lot of riders are cagey and they don't want to state their intent too much ahead of a race. And we know that interviews can be very evasive. Remco said, nah, this race is mine.
He did.
And now we can see why.
Let us see. Well, Let there be light, and it shone, didn't it? A golden light bathing Remco Evenepoel. And look at this. What an atmosphere we have had here in Kigali, and what a winner we have in Remco Evenepoel. It's been an absolute joy. Both the men's and women's time trials have proved to be spectacular.
Remco,
here he is.
Today you didn't just win the world title, you destroyed all the opposition. A masterpiece.
Yeah, I mean, felt pretty good straight away on the first flat part. I felt that the legs were turning. I was holding my pace without going over the limit, and then yeah, the first climb of the day was actually quite hard together with the last two ones, so I really pushed it there. And then after I just I mean, I saw I had quite a big gap, so I just wanted to keep a pace that I could hold until the bottom of Péage, and then I just went flat out on every climb. But I must say the cobbles were really, I mean, I hated them at some point. It was so hard to really push through them on the end, but in the end, I mean, I won is the most important. And yeah, Ilan, my teammate and same age generation guy, he became third. So I mean, phenomenal day for us, I guess.
And you catch today. What goes on in your mind when you see that green jersey in front of you today, Pogačar? It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think on a day like today, it doesn't matter who it is, but I just wanted to push as hard as possible from the first climb on, and yeah, then I just tried to recover as much as possible in the descents. And of course, on the cobbles, when I saw that I was coming closer quite quickly, I knew I had to push through, but I have to say that it was really tough on the false flat part in the end. So I didn't want to go over the limit, excuse me, because I knew that the last 400 was also still quite hard. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter who it is. I just wanted to go as fast as possible, and I mean, yeah, it's I had a really good day, and I hope I can keep this till next week.
3 world titles consecutively. You make history even more.
Yeah, I mean, the row I get in is pretty, I mean, our two impressive guys with Tony and Michael, so it's a big honor for me to step up there. And yeah, I guess next year I have to go for another one, because I want to be the first to get 4 in a row. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna enjoy this one first for sure. Still next week and then the week after, so still a few difficult weeks coming up, but of course I feel very happy, and this is a big motivation boost.
Congratulations.
A big motivation boost. Well, he's given the whole world of cycling a boost, I think it's fair to say. A lot of you watching in Africa, thank you so much for your kind thoughts as well about what has been an amazing day of racing. Not only, of course, of the women's time trial that we had this morning, spectacular. Won't give you the results over this broadcast because I don't want you to miss the opportunity of going and catching up with that great race. But right here, right now, we've had another spectacular day of racing. These World Championships, you know, they could prove to be one of the greatest ever.
Well, we had high hopes coming into this week and this day of 2 spectacular opening time trials, but wow, it's just delivered and then some, hasn't it? And we're just getting sight now on the incredible crowds. And I just think that when we saw the arena for the first time for the start ramps of the TT, we knew we were on something special. But gosh, what history and what more are we going to see unfold throughout the rest of these championships? Because of course this is just the start.
It is just the start, and I cannot wait for the rest of it, quite frankly. Well, I've got to say, it has been an absolute pleasure in so many ways, and if we don't get an opportunity a little bit later on, I'd just like to thank Rebecca Charlton for exceptional commentary. Thank you at home as well for your very, very kind thoughts on what has been a fabulous day of racing. And personally speaking, well, it has been an absolute joy in so many ways. We've had the drama, we've had the beauty, and of course we've had the welcome of Africa, and in particular the good people of Kigali and Rwanda. We thank you warmly. We're nearly there. It is indeed awards time, and that coveted rainbow jersey, which Remco Evenepoel practically owns, for goodness sake, when it comes to time trialling. Let's indeed see what the elite men's road race brings us, of course, next weekend as well. We also have the women's on Saturday, which is going to be equally hard fought for in spectacular terrain. In fact, some of the climbs that we've been dealing with form part of the course.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. And it was interesting that Remco Evenepoel straight away talking about more targets, wasn't he? And that's what we've come to expect from him as a rider. We know that's why he is so good at what he does, because he's able to absorb and appreciate what he's achieved, but then it's like, right, I want even more. I want more history in the making, thank you very much. But yeah, we've got the road races coming up, and just taking a look back now at that ride that we've just had the absolute joy of watching.
Well, he has a gold leaf covered helmet, and the extra weight didn't seem to be a burden to him at all. This was a 24-carat performance by one of the true greats of cycling, and certainly one of the greatest ever time trialists. That in the green is Tadej Pogačar that Remco Evenepoel has found after they started 2.5 minutes apart. That is something that many people will remember for the rest of their lives, and this man will certainly record as one of the greatest moments in his cycling career, no matter what he goes on to achieve. This has been special.
Look at that. Talking of special, it's not just job done, is it, in a scenario like that? There's so much at play there in the conviction in which he won that, and the fact that it was the third consecutive, and now he's already talking about the fourth.
And Vilda's going to share the podium with him, an old mate from their junior days as well. How lovely is that? They'll be looking at each other across at the podium and just thinking, days like this, they don't come around very often.
And again, I know every rider's different, but you've got to hope that they can really absorb and appreciate that moment, because it's so special. But I think so many riders go from target to target, constantly move that goalpost. You want to see riders just absolutely soaking in this for everything that it is right here and right now, and I think Remco will do that.
I'm a hero stadium, almost. I'm a horo, but it's our backdrop for the jersey presentation. And just look at the fans who've made the trip here. I think most of Belgium are over.
Yeah, we saw some good fan clubs out on the road, didn't we? But it's been a pleasure to see that all day. And as I say, this is only the start. It's set to continue, and we knew there'd be a lot of interest here for these World Championships, but yeah, it's certainly delivered on that front.
Cue the trumpets.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the award ceremony of the 2025 UCI Road World Championships in Kigali. Mesdames et messieurs, bienvenue à la cérémonie protocolaire de championnat du monde route UCI 2025 à Kigali.
Ikaze kuri mwese muteraniye hano, tubaye ikaze mu biro byo gutanga ibihembo ku bakinnyi bitwaye neza muri shampiyona y'isi y'amagare y'ibihumbi 2025 UCI Road World Championships iri gukinirwa ahangaha i Kigali.
Award ceremony of the 2025 UCI Road World Championships, Men Elite Individual Time Trial. Cérémonie protocolaire de championnat du monde route UCI 2025 contre la montre individuelle homme élite.
muri uyu mwanya tugiye guhemba abatsinze muri shampiyona y'isi y'amagare mu 2025 mu bagabo bakina individual time trial ITT.
The medals and jersey will be presented by Mr. Tony Mitchell, UCI Management Committee member. Les médailles et le maillot seront remis par Monsieur Tony Mitchell, membre du comité directeur de l'UCI.
Imidari n'imyambaro igenerwa abatsinze igiye gutangwa na bwana Tony Mitchell, umwe mu bagize komite nyobozi ya UCI.
In third place and winner of the bronze medal representing Belgium. À la troisième place, et vainqueur de la médaille de bronze représentant la Belgique.
Ku mwanya wa gatatu n'umudari w'umuringa yegukanwe n'umukinnyi ukinira ikipe ya Belgique.
Ilan van Wilder!
What a spectacular performance. Getting himself a bronze, or I like to call it a rose gold medal. This is wonderful. He's even had time to do his hair. How fabulous for Belgium to have two on the podium.
Really important, isn't it? What a moment for them. And we did not know how this top three was going to look. What a race.
Ku mwanya wa kabiri n'umudari wa feza yegukanwe n'umukinnyi ukinira Australia.
Jay Wine, I think he's actually going to have a tipple tonight. He's allowed. What a performance. There it is. Should we call it platinum? That was great, wasn't it?
He was just brilliant today. And I think you could just see that from his demeanour. Every time the camera cut in to a close-up shot of his face, you could see just how much he had in the tank, how calm he was.
Representing Belgium. À la première place, champion du monde UCI et gagnant de la médaille d'or représentant la Belgique.
Shampiyona y'isi y'amagare n'umudari wa zahabu yegukanwe n'umukinnyi ukinira Ububirigi ariwe
Mr. Hattrick Remco Evenepoel.
Mr. Hattrick, indeed. I think there's a t-shirt to be had. Before that, the most important jersey, to my mind, in the world of sport, and certainly to this man's mind as well. He gets a gold medal, but he also gets the rainbow bands for the third time in a row. That is absolutely exceptional.
It truly is, and I was so intrigued to hear what he was going to say in that interview straight after his third victory in this race, because you can only imagine what goes through the mind of someone with this level of talent, this ability to deliver. I can't comprehend it. The moment you know you've done it again, and you've not just done it, you've overtaken Pogacar, and you've got such a clear margin to play with.
Well, there's a few other goodies to be handed out as well. The Minister of Sport is here with the goodie bags. I'd love to know what's in them. Something very, very special, I imagine, for what has been an amazing opening day of this, the UCI Road World Championships 2025, for the first time in Africa.
And now the Tissot watch will be presented by Mr. Tony Mitchell, UCI Management Committee member. La montre Tissot sera présentée par Monsieur Tony Mitchell, membre du comité directeur de l'UCI.
impano y'isaha ikorwa n'uruganda Tissot igiye gutangwa na bwana Tony Mitchell, umwe mu bagize komite nyobozi ya UCI.
Well, you get a watch as well. Great timekeepers for us in our sport. We thank Tissot, and indeed we thank Remco Evenepoel for a spectacular performance and a great deal of entertainment. And the smile says it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of our new UCI World Champion, we present the national anthem of Belgium. Mesdames et messieurs, au l'honneur de notre nouveau champion du monde UCI, nous vous présentons l'hymne national de la Belgique.
mudufasha nanone gushimira wegukanye shampiyona y'isi y'amagare mu gukomeza kumuha icyubahiro twese duhaguruke mu gihe haririmbwa indirimbo yubahiriza igihugu cye cy'Ububiligi.
Well, Belgium is a country that many regard as the crucible of the world of cycling. And burning white hot is indeed the performances, constantly it seems, of the great entertainer, Remco Evenepoel. What a podium, and what a day of racing we have had. Thank you, Kigali. Thank you, Rwanda. Thank you, Africa. And thank you, of course, to the UCI for these amazing championships. And I guess, most of all, you have to thank our winners, our world champions. Absolutely magnificent. What it takes to achieve this greatness is not just about the individual rider. It's about everyone associated with them. And, of course, the world of cycling itself.
What a phenomenal first day here in Kigali. And the competition will continue tomorrow morning already, 10:30, with under 23 individual time trial women, and will continue in the afternoon, 1:30, under 23 in individual time trial men.
Ku munsi w'ejo rero irushanwa rizakomeza mu gitondo mu batarengeje imyaka 23 mu bagore nibo bazakina mu gihe mu bagabo bazakina nimugoroba aribo nabo batarengeje imyaka 23 mu bagabo ariko ntihagire ugenda dufite DJ Brian mu kanya gato araza gusesekara ahangaha. Mwakoze cyane, thank you so much, merci beaucoup.
Well, he's now got the near burden, of course, of doing all the media engagements that are going to be expected of him. He'll be straight off to the press corps after he's signed the jerseys. But let's reflect on what's been a fabulous day, Rebecca. We had a wonderful winner of the women's race, which I think we can now give you. Spoiler alert, if you are still to watch that race, it's time to indeed mute the sound right now. But two great world champions we have we not?
Oh, it's just been everything we hoped for and more, hasn't it? Harlem Royce, just, again, I think we've just had such two dominant wins. I think that's really been the story of the day, is we expected unpredictability. We thought we knew who the favourites were. That switched around a little bit throughout the day. But yeah, I think ultimately Royce and Evenepoel just delivered what we knew they had the potential to do, and they did it with a margin and with conviction. And I think also what we have to take away from today is the amount of riders that got the biggest opportunities of their lives today, and also every single person lining the road celebrating this sport, and not just this sport, but what this means for Africa to have these championships.
Congratulations to Remco Evenepoel, and a first sign of fallibility in Tadej Pogačar. He has been such a dominant force for such a long time, and for him to come here and be beaten out of the medals is something unexpected, I think it's fair to say. What we can expect from Remco Evenepoel is potentially a rejuvenation of his vim and vigour. He signed for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, of course, for next year, having left Soudal Quickstep. Maybe he will find it within himself to indeed deliver when it comes to another Grand Tour. Champion of La Vuelta, of course, a couple of years ago. Multiple world champion, as you well know. World Road Race champion in 2022. And now 3 times consecutively time trial champion. He's done a lot, Remco Evenepoel. In any other era, he would be the man. Well, today he certainly is, in so many ways. It's a joy to see him winning in such a flamboyant fashion.
Flamboyant is a really good word for it as well, because I felt like he went out there and he owned it, didn't he? And he delights and entertains with every pedal stroke. He just manoeuvres the bike in a way that is, yeah, it's pretty unique to watch, isn't it? But to your point on switching teams, it's something I talk about a lot with riders because it can make such a difference. And as you say, we're talking about a rider that's winning this big in consecutive years and doing everything that he's delivered in the sport. But he knows he wants more. There is more. And I think for Marlen Reusser is a textbook example of what can happen when you switch teams. And she's had such belief around her, and interesting times for both of these riders.
The third one. But would you say that today was one of your best performances on a TT bike?
Honestly, yeah, I think so. Like I said before, it's the kind of TT I actually like because it's short parts of really high power and then some parts recovery, so it's completely different than my 2 previous titles. So yeah, I think in a one-day TT must have been one of the best. So I mean, if you win, it's always a good performance, so I cannot complain today.
You went flat out from start to finish. At the first time check, you had a 44-second advantage already. I mean, it was flat out all the time?
Yeah, let's say until after 7K, I started to push really hard. We had our own time checks as well after 6.5, and then on the top of Péage. So I knew already that on the first roundabout I had like 15 seconds advantage on the second one. So yeah, it has been a good TT, a very good pacing plan, and yeah, in the end I was quite on the limit after the cobbles, but in the end I made a gap already before, so it doesn't matter that I lost a bit of time in the end, but just very happy with the overall result.
You make history. You make also history because you are the first to win on African soil. What was the atmosphere like on the course?
Yeah, pretty special. I think, especially coming close to the finish line, the atmosphere was rising. So and then yeah, on the finish line it was like madness. So yeah, I can only be happy and proud to be the first one to win here. So yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it with the team tonight, and of course we need to refocus quickly for next week as well. But of course today we will enjoy and celebrate it a bit.
Merci à toi.
Well, he takes it in his stride, doesn't he? Don't forget, the programme goes on. The women's under-23 individual time trial is, of course, tomorrow, Monday. There will be the men's under-23 as well, so it's your chance to actually enjoy, I guess, the thrill of seeing the youngsters, the future, having a go. Zoe Baxter is involved, incidentally. I think she's a shoo-in for the women's title, but we can't take anything for granted, as we found out today.
We absolutely cannot, but it has been interesting to see who's fielding squads here and for what races, and we do have a very handy under-23 squad for Great Britain. Zoe Baxter is remarkable though, another rider that works tirelessly day in, day out for others and does so much work as a teammate. But we know her palmarès has been so impressive at such a young age, and she's also just an absolute joy off the bike.
There you go. So yet more to come. Sadly, it won't be us that are indeed calling your race tomorrow. We would have loved it because we loved today, didn't we? Long day, but a really enthralling.
Really, really good day. It just didn't look like Jay Vine ever really troubled himself with the effort there. He just looked so calm in his face throughout. A bit of contrast.
Yeah, he is a model of serenity. On the bike.
That's the right word, serenity.
River Games, you bet it's fun.
Nta makuru ufite kanguhe muri shyushye. Uzi ko nawe n'abakunzi ba BNB Kigali FM badukurikira kuri YouTube yacu.
Kagira inkuru rero.
Si ibyo gusa ahubwo barifuza kuba abanyamuryango bacu.
Uzi ko no muri Leta Zunze Ubumwe za Amerika hari abadusabye kwinjira muri uyu muryango utagira uheza n'umwe di. Tumaze kumva ubusabe bwabo ntitwicaye ubusa. Twabatekerejeho tubashyira mu byiciro bitandukanye. Dufite ibyiciro 4. Hari nyanshuti, hari akadasohoka, hari umunywanyi n'igihango. Ubwo rero byaterwa n'amahitamo ya buri muntu.
Hanyuma se barasabwa iki?
Nta kindi uretse kujya kuri YouTube yacu ukajya handitse join. Hanyuma ukinjira mu cyiciro kikubereye.
University of Technology and Arts of Byumba, UTAB.
Iramenyesha abayifuza kuyigamo mu cyiciro kizatangira muri Nzeri 2025 ko kwiyandikisha byatangiye kuri UTAB Byumba na UTAB Kiramuruzi.
The University of Technology and Arts of Byumba campus has the following faculties. The Faculty of Social Sciences, Management and Development Studies has Bachelors of Arts with honors in social work, accounting, rural development, entrepreneurship and cooperatives management. The Faculty of Education has Bachelor of Education with honors in English and Kinyarwanda, English Kiswahili, English French, History, Economics, Mathematics, Computer Science, Mathematics, Biology, Mathematics, Geography, Biology and Geography. In the Faculty of Agriculture, Environmental Management and Renewable Energy, there is Bachelor of Science with honors in crop production, agroforestry, animal production, agribusiness, management of forests and natural ecosystems, and renewable energy. In the Kiramuruzi campus, there is Bachelor of Education with honors in English and Kinyarwanda, English and French, Mathematics and Computer Science, and Bachelor of Arts with honors in accounting.
Ushobora kwiyandikisha uri hose ukoresheje murandasi kuri y3.utab.ac.rw cyangwa y3.miss.utab.ac.rw. Amasomo azatangira kuri 22 z'ukwa 9 kubiga muri gahunda ya kumanywa na tariki 26 z'ukwa 9 kubiga mu mpera z'icyumweru. Kugira ngo usaba yemererwe agomba kuba afite impamyabumenyi y'amashuri yisumbuye igaragaza ko yatsinze nibura kuri 50% ku basoze mu mwaka wa 2024 cyangwa yaratsinze amasomo abiri y'ingenzi. Hamagara 0788244034.
Itemo IPO box mazube miliyoneri. Itemo IPO box uhindurira ubuzima. Iyo tumije ibintu mu mahanga bikugeraho byihuse kandi byizewe tukaguha amakuru yaho ubutumwa bwawe bugeze. Itemo IPO box akarusho ku giceri 100 gusa uratsindira ya Sorento na miliyoni 10 z'amanyarwanda. Akarusho ku giceri 100 gusa uratsindira n'ibindi bihembo byinshi kandi bya buri munsi. Itemo IPO box mazube miliyoneri. hitemo ipio box uhindurirwa ubuzima hitemo ipio box.
Nibyo koko kanda akanyenyeri 801 akanyenyeri 631 urwego maze hamwe na itemo ipio box ube miliyoneri. Ikindi kandi iyo wendikishije muri ipio box uhabwa token 100 zose ukiyongera amahirwe yo kuba watsindira ibihembo. Iposta na smart anwani mwikoranabuhanga ipio box agasanduku ngendanwa kawe. Waduhamagara ku murongo utishyurwa 6970. Kina kenshi wongera amahirwe yo gutsinda. Aya mahirwe nagucike.
Igitondo cyiza kuri mwese mukurikiye BNB tuje muri Sunday Sports ya tariki 21 z'ukwezi kwa 9 twizere ko meze neza. Njye basuze nitwa Eddie Abayisenga ndi kumwe n'abagenzi banjye Gerard ndetse na Iva tuje kubagezaho amakuru ya sport. Turaza guhera